Kerry is married with his wife, Amy. They have been married for coming up on, wow, almost 30 years. That's great. He has 3 children. Kerry and Amy's fathers are both Baptist ministers. He received his bachelor's in pastoral theology and earned a master's degree from Trinity Baptist College in 2005. He began his ministry at Southside Baptist Church in Tampa, Florida, where he is currently the pastor, and he has been the Tampa Police Chaplain since 2005. So, Pastor, it is our great pleasure to have you here today. So if everyone could please stand for the prayer and remain standing for the pledge.
Just want to say it's an honor to be here today. And before I pray, many of you have seen the devastation down in Fort Myers in that area. And we truly have much to be thankful for how God has sustained this city through all of that. Reminded in Psalm 103 where it says, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits." And so let's do that this morning. Our Father, we just want to take a moment this morning to thank you and to recognize your great mercy upon this city and how you have blessed us. And Lord, we thank you for how you have allowed this city to grow and to prosper. And Lord, we just recognize that it's been your hand of grace that has sustained us. Lord, as we have even seen devastation down south. And Lord, we realize that that storm could have landed here. And Lord, that our agenda would have been much different today. But God, you have been kind to us. And so, Lord, we thank you for that. And we want to praise you for that. Lord, as we come to this hour and to this day, Lord, we recognize that we need your help and your grace and your wisdom. And Lord, there are many problems and many tasks before this council, and I pray that you would, Lord, help them and give them, Lord, the wisdom that they need and the direction that they need. We pray for our mayor that you would bless her, and Lord, our Tampa police and our fire and those first responders, Lord, every day that they stand on those front lines. God, would you help them, bless them. Lord, our city is truly blessed because of you, and we're in need of you. And so we ask today that you would help us to recognize our dependence upon thee. And I pray, oh God, that your grace would be sufficient in our hearts and in our homes, that you would help us. And Lord, we thank you for Jesus Christ and for how he has come to be a Savior for us. Lord, may we look to him today for strength. And Lord, would you continue to overshadow this place and this city? And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Carlson. Vieira. Here. Maniscalco.
Here.
Hurtak. Here. Goods. Here. Miranda. Here. And Citro.
Here.
We have a fiscal quorum.
Thank you very much. Mr. Shelby.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Tampa City Council, the public. Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. As the chair had said, today is November 3rd, 2022, and we're here at Old City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard. The public and the citizens of the City of Tampa are able to watch, listen, and view this meeting on Spectrum Channel 640, Frontier Channel 15, and live streaming on the internet at www.tampa.gov/live stream. And members of the public can attend in person here or virtually participate through what is referred to by Florida statutes and rules as Communication Media Technology, CMT. And please note that public comment through the use of CMT and also for quasi-judicial hearings, pre-registration is required. The rules for that are located on the City Council's website, on the City Council's webpage, through that page, https tampa.gov/City Council. And in order to participate, again, pre-registration is required. Mr. Chairman, in order to have your rules comport for the use of CMT, I ask you waive the rules, please.
We have a motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goose. All in favor? Thank you very much. Let's go through the agenda right now. Chief.
Good morning, Council. John Bennett, Chief of Staff. Good morning to our public. Just going to do a quick recap of what I understood after yesterday's agenda review session, specifically pertaining to staff reports. Item number 4, originally there was nothing to report. However, at the meeting on Tuesday, please correct me if I'm wrong, Councilwoman Hurtak asked our CFO to see if he could come back with a financial resource for something, and he's willing to do that under item 4 if that's council's pleasure. All right. Items 5 through 7, staff is here, and those obviously require a vote. Items 8 through 9, there's an appearance and report. Many of these have had memos submitted. Item number 10, staff's willing to monitor, but there's a memo on file. Item 11 and 12, there's a reading for that, for both of those items. Item 13 and 14 require a legal report. Items 15 and 16 have an appearance and report together. Staff is available. Item 17, there's a legal report as well. Item 18 has a draft and presentation. Item 19 was requested to be continued, and it's my understanding that item 35 was pulled, and staff will be here for that as well.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Hurtak.
I'm fine with the report for item 16. I don't need anyone to appear for that.
Does anyone else on council want to hear a verbal report? Councilwoman Hurtak, are you saying that we can take 16 off the agenda?
Yes, because there's a lovely written report.
Mr. Chairman, if I can clarify, and I don't know whether council wants to do what it normally does, is to find out whether there's anybody who wishes to have staff present for the ones that contain the memorandum, or if that's the case, then they can be released from having to appear. So I guess the question would be then, do you want to proceed that way, or just ask council if there's anything?
I just asked them. I thought, does anybody else on council want to
Anybody
hear
else?
that?
Are you just talking about six? Sorry, I'm late.
Just
Are you-
16, yes.
Just 16, no.
Thank you. We can remove agenda item or release agenda item 16.
That would be the receive and file then.
Receive
at
and
the time,
file?
At the time, unless now you want to do it. Oh, no, you do it after public comment, please, just in case. Do it when
Thank
it
you,
comes up.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
So did I understand that 35 is being taken off the agenda?
I believe the request is to pull it from the
Pull
consent
it.
docket.
Oh, pull it.
And put it under
Okay,
staff
sorry.
reports. At what
So I
point under
thought, we
staff
had a
reports
nice
then,
discussion
Chief?
about it.
Earlier?
I misheard, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, at what point did you want to take that up?
During staff report, yes.
I would suggest in the first few, because it requires a vote, would be my, and I actually would take a moment, if I could, and thank the clerk's office, working with my office to organize the front end of the agenda based on voting and reporting. So if we can move that up for the voting band, it would be helpful for everybody.
Take it right after agenda item number 4.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, agenda items also, 17, 18, and 19 are asking to be continued to December 15th.
So moved.
We have a motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Miranda, to move agenda items number 17, 18, and 19, which are file number CM 22-77270, CM 22-77-457, and CM 22-77483 to December 15th, 2022. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. And I believe at this time we have a motion by Councilman Goods for a walk-on agenda item.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Goods, you are recognized.
We have a vacancy that I need to make an appointment on. I'm going to ask for a walk-on so that person can be appointed to begin serving. We'll have that next meeting on Friday.
Would we like to do that first thing, which shouldn't take very long?
Nope, didn't take long.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Carlson.
Sorry, you're going to make a motion. I'm sorry I was late, but I would like to make sure staff is here for 11, 12, and 13.
Well, my understanding is there's only been, is staff going to be present for every other one?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we still have a motion on the table from Councilman Goods. Here a second?
Second.
Uh, mo-
Guido, second, sir.
Is
We
that,
have a motion made by Councilman Goode, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. We'll take that right before number 1.
well, or we could,
All right.
if we could take that for first after public comment, we'll take that as well, if that's possible. Or you could take it after number 1.
Thank you very much. We will now have public comment. Anyone wishing? I apologize. We will do ceremonials at this time. Councilman Miranda.
Second.
A motion to approve the agenda by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor? Aye. Councilman Miranda. You okay, Councilman Goods?
I'm just here, my brother. I'm just here, man.
I hear you.
Just here.
We're all just here.
Just here, man.
With the water ward, flags, water ward winners, please come forward. Come on up, guys, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Chairman of Tampa City Council, honorable members of Tampa City Council, it's my pleasure this morning to be before you, along with the Water Department Head Chuck Kansas Weber. I had to give you your middle name, Kansas. And Brad Baird, and I believe it's Tony Monk and Megan Etu.
Julia, Megan's not.
Okay, I'm sorry. And what this is, we're going to show you what they've done with their property, and then I'll read the accommodation for them. All natural, all beautiful looking.
We can't see it. No.
You can't see it?
Yeah.
This means they've done a lot of work, spent a lot of money, and used very little water. Congratulations. Let me read the commendation, if I may. It is Tampa City Council's pleasure to recognize Tony and Megan Etu of the Ridgewood Park for being the winner of the 2022 Community Waterwise Award presented by the City of Tampa's Water Department. The city and our neighboring municipalities have almost 20 years of recognition talented people who created the award-winning landscaping for the use of 9 principles of Florida's friendly landscaping and committed to conservation our water resources and protected the environment by using attractive Florida-friendly landscaping. And all those words are very important to us and to the environment, because your little steps are going to be steps and miles and thousands of gallons that are saved, and millions possibly if everybody listens to nature. And you have done an extensive work in creating what you created, a beautiful landscaping yard, and you are to be commended for that, for the time that you spent on it, but really for the time that you spent to helping the earth stay a little cleaner. And for that, we really appreciate it very much, and I'm happy to present this award to you along with Mr. Chuck and Mr. Brad Baird. This award is yours, sir, and the pictures and the paintings and the prints tell the whole story. You did the hard work, so you're welcome to come to my house and start.
I'm sure y'all have plenty of business to do. We started this long before we knew this award existed, and we started to convert our home away from lawn, away from irrigation, away from chemicals, because we knew it was the right thing to do for us and for our community and for the environment. And we only pursued the award because we hoped to demonstrate to others that you can have a lovely home and do these things that are good for the broader community and for the environment and for our drinking water resources. So I didn't do this personally for the commendation, but I hope that other people will see it and take some steps to make their little piece of Tampa a little bit better. That's all.
Council members?
Any council members like to say anything? Councilman Vieira.
Just congratulations, and we appreciate all the work that you do, and I'm glad that you were honored for this, because you're obviously very in tune with it and passionate, so thank you.
Councilman Maniscalco.
again, congratulations. Your entire department, you work tirelessly, and we appreciate it. We appreciate all that you do in helping to make our community a better place. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Councilman Carlson.
This started, I am an employee of the Parks and Rec Department, but this was done before I was an employee of the Parks and Rec Department. So to be clear.
No, thank you for doing this, and hopefully you will be an inspiration to others. I see more and more people doing this, and we hope to be able to convert everybody. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Little known fact, before I got appointed, this was my goal for the year, to actually do this to my yard. Don't really have as much time at home as I used to, but I'm still working toward that goal. I think your yard is a wonderful example of how all of us can make our yards Florida friendly and using less, I love using less water and chemicals. So thank you so much for showing this, and congratulations on all your hard work.
Councilman Gooch, you wish to speak?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I want to be recognized, though. Well, again, thank you for your efforts. A nice yard in the community makes it livable. People see, oh, wow, make them want to get out there and have a green thumb, So thank you for your efforts.
As water becomes more of a commodity than gold, we're looking at years down the line when more and more people move to this area. I want this to be the showcase to teach people to conserve and use water wisely. Thank you for bringing this to the forefront. Thank you for showing all of Tampa how that they can conserve water and still have beautiful yards. Thank you.
Thank you.
People got on away.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, it's my pleasure, Honorable Chair and Honorable members of Tampa City Council, to have the City of Tampa's Water Department backflow maintenance and inspection team come forward, please. Thank you very much. Don't be bashful. I'm the only guy that's bald. Come on. Thanks again, guys. Again, before I read the commendation, these are individuals that are behind the scenes, that the only one that sees them is the people that work with them. And what they do for the city of Tampa, something to keep us safe in the water side of drinking, and they do a very admirable job. But I think the combination's wording will say it all. Critical jobs are often overlooked, and backflow prevention plays such a role. Backflow equipment saves lives and protects the general health, safety, and welfare of the public. Measures have taken long ago to require specific equipment that would prevent cross-contamination of the water system. With backflow equipment operating properly, the water system is at no risk for any pollutants getting into it. This specialized equipment requires regular testing, maintenance. Recently, members of the City of Tampa's Water Department backflow maintenance and inspection team were certified in critical needs. This team and their supervisor are the first line of defense for the city's important backflow maintenance program. It is an honor to recognize these behind-the-scenes employees and their supervisors for protecting our health and ensuring our daily safety. A special thanks to the supervisor and certification instructor, Frank Zimmer, and his team. And these are the individuals that's in the team. And I'll try to pronounce their name. Mo Arifa, Rocky Arroyo, Willie Gentile, Louis McCarver, Ross Puleo, Kelvin Richardson, Adam Roque, and Lazaro Vidal. Am I right so far? Right. Give me an A. But, and I'll let them speak. It's a real thing that without individuals like this, not only in this city, but throughout the whole United States of America, we wouldn't have the water quality that we have today and the standard of living that we have today. So again, I want to applaud them for being who they are and give them a... They are going to get a commendation in paper, and this will hang in the office, I hope. So I want to hand them out to them, and I'm so smart that I'm putting it like this, like it's an order, so they can change when they want. Thank you. So, who do I present to? Frank?
Thank you.
You're the man now.
Thank you. Thank you very
The
much.
mic is yours.
I'd just like to thank Councilman Miranda and City Council for this award for these guys. These guys work hard every day, and they deserve it. Good job, guys. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Council members, Councilwoman Hurtak.
I just want to say thank you for all the work you do. It is so nice to be able to recognize those who actually do the work that keeps this city running. And congratulations for all of you to recertify. That's a real, just wonderful thing. So congratulations to every single one of you. That speaks a lot towards your team and your teamwork.
Thank you. Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, same thing. Just thank you so much for all you do, and sorry we don't get to say thank you to you enough. I know when you are all in the worst of the difficult situations, hopefully you'll remember that the community supports you and thanks you.
Councilman Vieira.
Thank you very much for all of y'all's work day in and day out. It's a really hard job that y'all do, and this is just a very small token of our appreciation. So we appreciate all your hard work and labor. Thank you.
Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. We appreciate all the hard work that you do. You're out there doing things that the public doesn't see all the time. But you're out there, you're taking care of things, you're keeping the city running. We appreciate you. We appreciate all that you do. Thank you.
Councilman Goose.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, it's always great to get an accolade when you're doing a great job and doing things that helps the city grow. So again, thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you. Again, water is one of our biggest issues within the city of Tampa. Everybody wants fresh, clean drinking water. Everybody wants the water to be taken away, whether it's our flooded roads or taking away our wastewater. You guys are vital to how this city works. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Yes. Next, I would like to welcome Ed Sherwood, Executive Director of the Tampa Bay Estuary Program, to present to us the State of the Bay. Thank you so much for coming today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the council for inviting me, and I think the presentations are very apropos to what I'm going to talk about and some of the initiatives that we're working on through the estuary program. I did have a presentation. I don't know if they're going to cue it up or not. But just to give a little bit of background of me, I'm Ed Sherwood, Executive Director of the estuary program. I have 6 staff in our program. We are one of 28 national estuary programs designated by Congress to protect the estuaries of national significance. Our program derives about $775,000 in federal funding that we match with local sources, of which the City of Tampa is a contributing policy board member and an interlocal agreement partner to our program. We also work with City Clearwater, City St. Pete, Hillsborough, Pinellas, Pasco, and Manatee counties. Our long-standing goals are defined in, how do I advance? Is it this one? Yes. Our program priorities and long-standing goals are defined in a comprehensive management plan. Under that plan, there's 3 main themes that we direct funding resources towards research, restoration, and community engagement efforts that are focused on improving our water and sediment quality throughout Tampa Bay area, improving the habitats that benefit the fish and wildlife that are represented within the estuary, and then getting the community on board and engaged with helping us out in restoring those resources. I'll jump right to the point, sort of the punchline of where the state of the bay is. We put out a report about every 3 years, kind of highlighting some of the existing challenges and benchmarking the current conditions of each of the important indicators of the bay's health. So, from the start, I just want to mention, we've made great progress in the region. We've made some great investments, but we still have some remaining challenges. One of those is the old Tampa Bay segments. That's the upper left-hand lobe of Tampa Bay, where the 3 bridges that link the city of Tampa with the Pinellas County Peninsula exist. That old Tampa Bay segment experiences persistent summertime algal blooms. It is a harmful algal bloom. It's not red tide, but a different species, but we've been observing that bloom going back to early 2010s. And a lot of that has to do with some of the nutrient loading and poor tidal circulation that bay segment experiences. Also, we do have other rigorous goals in terms of other important habitats like oysters, marshes, and mangroves, as well as wetlands within the watershed. So we've defined some fairly aggressive targets to try to meet about 3,000 additional acres of those different habitats over the next 10 years. And we need to capitalize on those opportunities now, as we know our community continues to expand and develop. Those opportunities to restore some of those habitats are being lost, and we need to capitalize on those open spaces and the lands right now to get those important habitats back. And then, we've experienced some really acute events where we've had red tide incursions into the bay that have affected the fish and wildlife resources, and the community has really been engaged when those events occurred. Last year, we had the Piney Point facility discharge that loaded an unprecedented amount of nutrients into the bay. And following that loading, we saw a fairly significant red tide that went up into the Tampa Bay further than we've seen over the past 50 years. So those are sort of the priorities and sort of the take-home messages from the State of the Bay report. There's links in my presentation, but those are the focal areas that we're directing our resources as an estuary program towards. And if there's one graphic I want you all to take home and sort of leave an impression on you for my presentation today is this one. We have, as I mentioned, made some great and significant progress to improve water quality for the benefit of seagrasses, to the point where we reached a defined goal that we established early on in the establishment of the estuary program. We actually peaked in the terms of the amount of seagrass coverage, as shown by this graph, in 2016. But we're now seeing some warning signs where the bay's water quality and the health of those seagrass resources are starting to decline below that goal and target level. So that should give us some pause and ask questions of what we need to do to be proactive to address these issues up front, so that we can maintain a healthy bay, because that healthy bay is both environmentally sound, but it also provides a lot of economic benefits, as you all know, to the region. We gauge and assess how well we're doing using a water quality reporting tool for each of the major bay segments. This is the stoplight graphic on the left of the screen there. So each of the 4 major bay segments, Old Tampa Bay, Hillsborough Bay, Middle Tampa Bay, and Lower Tampa Bay, we assess certain water quality indicators. And as I mentioned, Old Tampa Bay has had this caution level because of that persistent algal bloom for quite some time. And what drives a lot of our water quality issues in the bay is the amount of nutrients that enter the system through a variety of different sources. One of the main sources is through non-point sources or stormwater. About 64% of the nitrogen load, well over about 2,300 tons on average, emanates from stormwater. But then another 17% comes from atmospheric emissions, just basically the nitrogen contained in the air being deposited on the bay surface. And then the other 17% comes from both domestic wastewater and industrial wastewater sources directly discharged to the bay or its watershed. So our longstanding goals have been focused on trying to reduce nitrogen loads, and one of the ways we've done that is working through a body called the Nitrogen Management Consortium, of which the city is part of. We've divvied up that pie basically into slices for each of the major sources within the estuary. And I just highlight the city of Tampa. There's defined limits for both the wastewater treatment plan and the stormwater loads that the city is responsible for. And maintaining those loads moving forward is an important aspect of how we proactively manage the bay. We know that with continued growth, there's going to be more wastewater, there's going to be more impacts on stormwater quality of those nutrients entering the bay. So we need to be vigilant and make those investments up front to ensure that the bay remains healthy. We've seen sort of these warning signs that we need to continue to make investments so that those warning signs don't become a fatal sign for the health of Tampa Bay like other areas in Florida, like the Indian River Lagoon. So, as I mentioned, one of the persistent water quality problems we have is in the Upper Bay segments in Old Tampa Bay. That trigger of not meeting water quality is primarily related to an algal bloom that occurs persistently every summer. It's called pyridinium. It actually bioluminesces. If you paddle and kayak through that system at night during the summer, it'll actually glow. But that particular species can also provide toxin levels that affect fish and wildlife, and also cause problems as it relates to dissolved oxygen in the water column. So that's something that we are investing in terms of stormwater retrofit projects, investigating those within that bay segment, but also want to be vigilant on all reduction on all nutrient sources leading to the upper bay segments. This graphic just highlights some of the areas where we've lost seagrasses over the current assessment period. And again, they're areas where we're seeing these poor water quality conditions. And we want to get back above that bright goal line in the near future. We don't want to continue to see that decline of seagrasses because those are the barometer of the bay's health. And we're not on a good trajectory as it stands right now based on the last 2 assessment periods. And of course, if we lose key habitats like that, that ultimately also affects important fish and wildlife resources that everyone expects the estuary to have. So we also use indicators of fish and wildlife. There's a Nectin index. These are small body fishes like juvenile snook, redfish, trout that recruit into the estuary. Use these upper portions of the upper estuary and the habitats represented in there to live out their life and grow up to adults that we later go out on the bay and try to fish and catch. So there are these warning signs out there. Overall, we've made some great improvements, but there's still work to be done. And that's sort of the take-home message of this latest State of the Bay report that I want to translate to y'all. And we recognize that the governments surrounding the bay, the private industries can't be all the ones working on these issues. That's why we also engage the public in different social marketing initiatives. Some of the preceding presentations of Florida-friendly landscaping, using water wisely, avoiding impacts from failing private lateral systems. Those social marketing campaigns are ones that we are investing in and trying to work with our partners like the cities and counties on further reducing those loads to Tampa Bay. So, I don't know why I went back to the beginning, but I promise I'm close to wrapping up and can entertain any questions, but also working with citizens on ways that we can improve, particularly waterfront areas where we have seawalls to increase the complexity of habitats using vertical oyster gardens or living shorelines. Those are sort of the investments we're putting our funding towards to encourage this to be expanded throughout the region. And in the end, as I mentioned, when we make those investments, we reap the rewards in terms of the environmental stability that allows the estuary to buffer impacts from hurricanes or other events like Piney Point in the future. But as the bay's stability continues to decline, the tipping point for the ecosystem to take really big hits becomes more in peril. So we have to continue to make those investments because they will come back in twofold, especially as it relates to the economic benefits of our region. As you know, Tampa Bay is the centerpiece of a lot of our local economy. It's important for many of the jobs within the region. So, we stand to lose a lot of that economic impact if, we have an unhealthy bay. We have persistent harmful algal blooms that are affecting tourism, recreation throughout our region. So we want to remain vigilant, make those investments, and look towards the future because we know the region is growing and we have to compensate for that if we want to ensure that the bay delivers what we intended to deliver in terms of environmental and economic benefits. So I'll stop there. I know I talked a little fast. I know you guys had a lot of business, but I tried to fit it in 10 minutes.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
I just want to say thank you for this. This is a great presentation and a great way to make sure people know that we really need to be thinking about algae blooms and how we put wastewater or any type of water back into the bay. So thank you so much. I know that our water department is working on a new program. I think they're bringing to us next week. I'm not sure. December. That's going to talk about, I believe it's called the six, yeah. So, and they've been briefing me on that a little bit, but to one of those studies to see if we can take more nutrients out of the water before it goes back into the bay. So thank you so much for this, and alerting us, letting us know what's going on. Appreciate it, your time today.
Councilman Carlson.
Yes, thanks a lot for coming to a great presentation. Two quick questions. It seems to me from media stories or others that something happened in the last 2 years that changed the numbers in the bay. And so I wonder if you could say whether that's right or not and what happened. And number two, our sustainability officer who just walked in, he has said, and I'll paraphrase, but he said that the partially treated wastewater that we put into the bay is much, much cleaner than the Hillsborough River. Plus, the Hillsborough River has many, many times more water. I don't know how many, maybe billions of gallons a day or whatever. But my second question is, if the Hillsborough River is full of pollutants, nutrients and pollutants that are going into the bay, is there something that the city should be doing to try to address the pollution in the river that's affecting the bay, or is it not affecting the bay?
Yeah, so on your first point, I think, we were doing really well up until 2016, and I think some of the algal blooms that have occurred in Old Tampa Bay are starting to catch up with us and have affected seagrass resources. So since about 2016, we've started to see decline in those seagrass resources due to those water quality issues, those persistent water quality issues. And certainly some of these acute events that have occurred, the Piney Point discharge released an unprecedented amount of nutrients into the bay. And we saw sort of the ramifications of that, of a red tide bloom in 2021. So certainly these acute events and sort of the chronic losses of seagrasses are reducing the buffering capacity of the bay to absorb those sort of impacts. So that makes us take pause as an estuary program, and again, trying to encourage our investments for the long term to get the bay back on track. On the second point, Hillsborough River, yes, is one of the rivers that contributes fresh water from a large watershed into Tampa Bay, and one of the primary nutrient sources to Tampa Bay is stormwater and non-point sources. So yes, working on projects with the city. We actually have a project to look at restoring Purity Springs. We've invested in restoring Eulalie Springs. Other sort of projects looking at improving the tidal creeks as well as the urban conveyances that we rely on to deliver the flood and stormwater from our urbanized environment to the riverine system, and improving and retrofitting some of the stormwater best management practices in those areas are also an important step of getting the bay back on track. So it's really our approach and success in the past hasn't been one particular smoking gun. It's trying to address all the sources of nutrients. So.
Do you know, just quick follow-ups, by reopening those springs and the flows, how many more MGD will that provide for the minimum flows of the river? And then second, is there anything, so what that's doing is that's putting more fresh water into the mix, but is there anything we should do more than we're doing now to try to prevent phosphate runoff or to try to treat the Hillsborough River in some way, or treat whatever's going in the Hillsborough River?
Yeah, like I mentioned, investing in stormwater retrofits in areas that were prior to some of the more rigorous stormwater rules that went into place in 1985. There's areas there that we could look at to restore some of the attenuation of stormwater that comes off some of those areas. So we're trying to refocus some funding and effort towards improvements through best management practice of additional stormwater controls. So I know the city is investing in those in terms of baffle boxes and other vault systems to try to attenuate those nutrients emanating from stormwater sources throughout the city of Tampa's jurisdiction. But it's such a large source that a lot of distributed projects are needed to make an impact.
Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say thank you for the presentation. I served on this board for a little over 4 years. I got to work with you and your predecessor, and it was always very informative and eye-opening. Everything from seagrass levels and what you showed to the quality of the water and what we're putting out into the bay and maintaining that. This is what's important. The environment, sea level rise, climate change, everything that's happening around us. If we don't take care of this, we can say goodbye to a lot. And the environment is so important. The quality of our environment, the quality of our water. You finished with one of the last slides, you know, good, clean, healthy water supply is of such significance to us and for future generations. But having said all that, I just want to say thank you for being here and giving us this update, and we appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know one thing, if there's ever a debate on the Bay, I want you on our side. Without anything in front of you read like the whole statute on how to keep a bay in proper condition. We want to thank you for giving us that. I know that prior to 2016, that bay was better then than it was in the 1950s. And I guess what you're talking about from 16 to that, it's become a little more pollutant than what we wish it to be. So if there's any way that we can help out, we put it at the environment and the things that we need to do in this country that we live in and throughout the world are not really being adhered to. Nature tells us what it can take and what it cannot take. And it's been telling us for years that it cannot take any more abuse. And we just don't listen too well. So I want to thank you and your organization for doing what you're doing to make nature come back and have the water resources that we have for many thousands of years to come. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much for your report. I'm with the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Resiliency Committee, and we've done some great work down at McDill Air Force Base of restoration of shorelines down there. You talk tidal flows, and every time FDOT decides to build a bridge across the bay, that dramatically changes our tidal flows. And when they build those bridges, they also gouge the seafloors. We have Cypress Point Park, which has a huge gouge in it that can be restored by planting seagrass, first leveling it out, planting seagrass and putting oyster bars, which are filtration systems for our waters. I'm hoping that the city of Tampa can come up with a maintenance program so that in the future we can restore our seagrasses around Tampa. We have two great seagrass farmers, Mr. Williams and Mr. Anderson, that are right here in the Bay Area that could assist us in that program. Thank you very much for your report today.
Thank you. Yeah, I certainly think there are other initiatives that will complement the ongoing nutrient load reduction strategies we have. One of those is improving tidal circulation, particularly in the old Tampa Bay region. So we think that's an important component to get that bay segment back on track, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we will be taking public comment. If there is anyone in chambers that would like to make public comment, would you please form a line on my left, your right?
Yeah.
Yes, my name is Pastor Frank Williams, located at 1112 East Scott Street, Paradise Missionary Baptist Church. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, and whosoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. I know some of you all don't accept that, but that's the truth. I thank God for my presence here once again, and we asked for public comment, but then most of the time y'all don't want to hear nobody else. But the thing about it, I'm here today to talk to you all about the cleanup project. Since that storm been going on in a windstorm, the mayor hasn't sent nobody out there in Belmont Heights and Jackson Heights to clean up the streets and nothing else, as if they don't give a damn. Which we know that they don't give a damn about black folks' neighborhood nowhere. I want to talk about this the retention pond. Y'all talking about We need to build up some affordable houses. Give us our land back so we can build them up. Especially over there on 22nd Street and Chelsea and a lot of other neighborhoods. We need to get our land back. Our ancestors built up this country, but now y'all treat us like we are nothing but animals. Treat us worse than we are human beings. But the thing about it, we must understand, God created us, and we created in His image and His likeness. And I'm proud to be who I am. And I'm not going to change. A lot of people don't like for me to talk about the Lord God Almighty, the reason we are here. If it weren't for Him, we wouldn't even be here to talk about it. So I thank God for this day. I might not be coming around here too much longer, but God is still good. He's good to all of us. And He loves all of us, too. But we try to make things a disaster because we're a certain creature of God. Oh, we want to be everything else but what God created us to be. But if God created you to be a man, be a man. God created you to be a boy, be a boy. If God created you to be a lady, be a lady. God created you to be a girl. And that's the only way we're going to accept it. We thank God for these blessings. God has brought us from a mighty long way. And you know what? As bad as you all treat us, some of us, I'm talking about myself, the more God bless us. And I just thank God for it. I'm going to be a preacher until I go to the graveyard, preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. Thank you for your many blessings. Amen. God bless all of you.
Thank you.
This is my story, please. I'd like to begin. My name is Robert. Good morning, everyone. My name is Robert Gruber. I live at 1303 West Hiawatha Street in Tampa. Last year, ETBCA agreed to put a roof on my 850 square foot home. The cost was $12,500. The organization did additional work as well. The roof had a hump in it. ETBCA contractor Victoria Hops came back and charged ETBCA $1,000 to check the reason for the hump. It did not stop there. The cost of replacing the hump that was missed the first time was $25,000, bringing the total cost to $38,500 for the roof on a small home. When I asked the city for clarification and receipts, there was no response. Less than 2 years later, as a veteran, I qualify for free roofing material, and a local roofer is donating their services to make less than the 2-year-old roof off and replace it. My roof will be replaced next week, beginning Monday. Based upon the information provided, I request an audit to be completed before any monies are approved. Inspector Howard inspected the roof and said contractor Victoria Hops did nothing wrong. There have been estimates from 2 other roofing companies with quotes. The estimated cost was $15,000, not $38,500. I have some time left. I want to thank y'all for allowing me to speak, and may God bless you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mike Reeve. I want to start off by saying I have a hearing problem, so if you respond to me, please speak louder, okay? I own a company called Reeves Building, Plumbing, and Roofing. Been in business 45 years here in the Tampa market. My company is also in Charlotte, North Carolina. I am part of your Equal Opportunity MBE program and been doing that for quite some time. Done a lot of quality work for you, the city, okay? At this present time, the housing department has taken me out of the off the bid list to be able to bid on housing rehab jobs, okay? There's been a lot of emails sent out, and I sent stuff to you guys as to how we feel about, been about a year. We're filling in, and we are contemplating on, if I can be honest with you, attorney, of filing a lawsuit against the city if this matter don't come to an end, okay? Right now, we're missing opportunities. We're in good standings with every other department, but we've been having problems with the nonprofit and also the housing project at housing department, as they have got emails, and a lot of the emails that we sent and my people that helped me had went to the attorney's office. I'm here to talk about two things. One would be, I requested information from the housing department in reference to how the MBE component of small business is tied into the housing. It is my understanding that the housing department right now is not following the ordinance. As I understand it, it reads that every city job, money, blah, 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 contract, it needs to comply with the MBE small business portion of the city ordinance. Today, that's not happening. 2 months ago, I sent a letter out to the housing department to get some information to answer that question. My point is this. I'm asking you to look into my company, Reed's Building, Plumbing, and Roofing, and get me an answer as to why I am not able to bid on housing jobs today. If not, I've been asking this, it's been about a year. So right now, I gotta be honest with you, I've been told to say this. We're contemplating on filing a lawsuit against the city for what we deem may be a case of discrimination. My name is Mike Reeve. I'm the president of Reeves Building, Plumbing, and Roofing. I really thank you, and I love my city. Thanks so much. If you got any questions, please speak louder.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any questions, Mr. Reeves, but I would like to be recognized.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Goose.
I saw Ms. Henderson here, Ms. Felix here, and Ms. Travis here. I see a lot of people talk about housing, so I want you to make sure you take notes of what they're talking about, so when you come to this podium, you're ready to answer what they are suggesting, what's being done, what's not being done, as it relates to any housing issues with any of these contracts coming before us today. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I can.
Mr. Shelby.
Just a reminder, council, that council, per its rules, Rule 4J, council should avoid any discussion of matters at a public meeting where the city is or is likely to be a party in litigation without concurrence of council. So I just want to bring that to council's attention, please.
Any other question for me?
No, sir, thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy your day, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Frankie Jones. I reside at 3606 East Genesee Street in Rainbow Heights. I am the president of Rainbow Heights Association, and I'm bringing some concerns in reference to the gun violence, the shooting. I live right there on the corner of Cortland and Genesee. There's a church in front of my home where now the young men or whoever is shooting is standing over in the church parking lot or passing through, shooting down where the Blue Store is right there on Chelsea and Cortland. I've asked for numerous times, been to different CRA meetings, the public safety meetings, to find out why we cannot get that store shut down as a nuisance. The guys are standing there. I don't know what's really going on, but it is just really has really exploded these past few months with the shooting. And we have a lot of seniors that really lived in this community. I was born and raised in that same house. And to hear the seniors saying how they have to fall on the ground, or they're calling me, I'm at work. I work to the school up the street on Chelsea and 34th. There's no officers out there. And we have our pre-K kids from ages 3 to age 8 there. We have to sometimes come off the play area. It is just like a war zone there. We really need some support. I've even spoken to the mayor. I last, on Halloween night, called, interrupted our state representative Sleep, and I thank her for taking my call. And we discussed something about trying to purchase that store, either get it closed down and put some affordable housing there, you know, and it's just ridiculous. Nobody's there for our safety. I work at that school, and I could stand out there and watch the traffic and see how many times TPD is seen in the community. And where the shooting just happened, we haven't seen him. We are documenting. And I talked to Goose as well. So we really need your support.
Mr. Chairman, again, I don't want to address the public, but I see Assistant Chief Johnson, Deputy Chief Johnson, and the Major back there. And I want to say this. Several times at CRA, I talked about the cameras. I have never heard anything back about the cameras. I don't care about people talking about this and that. We have seniors in the area, and they want cameras in the area. The CRA has dollars and cents. We do what we need to do to get them done. Also, again, I'm glad that you do the recent incident over on Sly Avenue by I think one of the schools. We talked about the daycares. I believe that's working now because the chief told me they implemented that. So that's good that that's going to happen. That they're going to alert the daycares to these issues in these private schools, which they should. I'm glad that is happening now. Also, I've talked about with the CRA and with the city housing in reference to that area on Chelsea Street to go in there and look about buying some of those properties. We have dollars and cents in our CRA budget. We have dollars and cents. We need to start purchasing property, like I said before. I know we don't have a lot of people, but we got to outsource to get people to do these things. There's a community in stress and in need, and they're tired. And I don't want to hear about, we don't want to put black people in jail. I don't want to hear about the black people in that community are tired now. You have residents with nice homes that they want to be safe. They want police over there regardless. So I'm hoping that you will be able to address, not today, but you will be able to address this to this council in the future of some strategies that we can do over there with extra patrol, extra cameras or whatever. But I'm telling you, the community over there is asking for cameras. And so my thing is this, we have dollars and cents. Let's go make that approach, do what we need to do so that is a deterrent. Also, again, our housing department is here. I have a video that I'm going to show a little bit later that some other places are doing some things. They're going to cue that up so we can look at other strategies that other places are doing. We are far behind other cities with some of the things we are doing. Ms. Travis is here. She's working hard. I know she's working hard. But and I don't want to put extra work on her, but I want people to see some things that I've found that my friends have sent me from other places that they're doing, and I'm going to present that a little bit later. But again, I want you to look into those issues, get back with this council, to address Ms. Frank, and she's been calling for years now, and you know her. And if people just talk about her family, I don't care about her family, because I know one thing about her. If her family do something wrong, she gonna tell it. She don't care what their family do. If they wrong, she gonna tell it. So she deserves to be safe, and so does the people in the community. So I thank you if you can get back with us on that, sir.
I sure will. And just some insight on the store that she's talking about. We have tried to do an abatement on that store. The issue with that store, it's a small plot of land. When things occur, they may not occur on the actual site of the store. When folks go there and hang and then stuff goes on, it actually happens off of the property. So that's kind of been a sticking point on trying to get that store through the abatement process.
And we tried. I know about that because I didn't think in 2020 we talked about some of the 15th Street stores, some of these stores that I asked to look into closing them down or buying them. So I think that needs to be a strategy with the police department and housing to see how we can get those places that are bad places and the city takes control of them.
Okay.
Good morning, James Michael Shaw Jr., and as has now been exposed, I run the CRB from my secret underground lair. I have to respond to some of the comments that were made by Officer Brandon Barkley. First, can I go to the Elmo? He accused me of being motivated by a hatred for police officers. I'm on the Elmo here. It's not showing on the screen, but on the Elmo here is the receipt from my donation to Officer Madsen's Memorial Fund from back in March of 2021. I was struck by his, I didn't even know the man, but I was struck by his act of self-sacrifice. And to hear some member of TPD come here and stand you and tell me that I hate that I hate police officers is uncalled for. He also told you that I quote unquote meant extensively and had several meetings with CRB member Carlos Valdez. Again, that was dishonest. I spoke with the man once for 30 minutes in July, and I haven't spoken to him since. Thank God he was here to stand up and correct the record. But there's a problem with dishonesty. I have to now put Officer Brandon Barclay on my list of officers that if I'm ever on a jury and the only evidence against the defendant is him on the stand saying he saw the defendant commit the crime, I have to acquit that defendant because I now know that he will be dishonest, that he will say something that isn't true. That's a public safety problem, isn't it? Where you have where juries need to be able to trust the word of TPD officers. That's why you need to have the ability to check their work. That's why you need to have the ability for the CRB to issue subpoenas to non-officers to see if what they're saying is true, to see if it comports with the evidence. Now, I think it's weird that somebody from the police department was doing personal opposition research on me personally, a private citizen advocating for change, but what else was he going to do? Was he going to stand here and say that the CRB is better off with a conflicted lawyer, or the CRB will make better decisions with fewer information? If it has less evidence, it'll reach better conclusions. Those things wouldn't stand, so they had to create this villain narrative. It's not too late for you to do the right thing. I also want to respond to some of the things that Judge Salsinas said. One thing that I want to make sure didn't go over anyone's head is that he said that you have the home rule power to give a board subpoena authority without amending the charter. You've in fact done it for the Civil Service Board, the Human Rights Board, the Code Enforcement Magistrate, and the Code Enforcement Board. So 2 years ago, Gina Grimes told you that you did not have that power. Judge Salsinas himself stood right here and told you that you do have it. So I would encourage you to go back to the city attorney and ask whether or not that's true. And lastly, you can craft an ordinance, you can craft subpoena power so that it doesn't conflict with the state attorney's office. There are ways to do it. Broward County did it in its ordinance. You have the attorney coordinate with the state attorney's office, but it almost never happens that the person who receives a subpoena because they have evidence or because they witnessed something is themselves a subject of prosecution, and that there's going to be a problem with immunity if you subpoena them. It's not too late for you to do the right thing, and I sure do hope that you will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I guess who am I supposed to give this to? Dear City Councilman, my name is Mary Browning. I have shared my challenges related to the contract of my home.
We can't hear it too well. No, they gotta raise up.
You gotta talk a little louder.
Yeah, you have to speak up.
Okay, my name is Mary Browning. I have shared my challenges related to the contract of my home, so I won't go over that because time is limited. I am here today because I ask you to not let this happen to another senior in Tampa. Although East Tampa Business and Civics Association was not directly involved with this challenge of my home, the contractor worked on county and city projects of East Tampa Business and Civic Association. I went to Diane Hart for her help as my state representative, and as part of the East Tampa Business and Civic Association, she told me she did not want to get in the middle of it, and she didn't help. The city cannot help me, but you can help keep this from happening to seniors with city tax dollars, funds to another organization that cares about the people and not the contractor. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Good morning, Chair Citro and council members. I am Fran Tate, an East Tampa homeowner. I've lived in East Tampa for 17 years. 15 years ago, I organized a community crime watch in Jackson Heights. That has become a functional neighborhood association for the last 10 years. Also, I've been re-elected as chair of the Community Advisory Committee of the East Tampa CRA. As you know, these are not paid positions. I would not have obtained and been re-elected to the positions without the community knowing that they can put their trust in me and that I will speak up for them in all honesty and sincerity. Finally, I'm a 30-year employee, which I am so proud of the Moffitt Cancer Center. I continuously advocate on behalf of patients and their families. I'm here today to speak on agenda item number 5 and to speak up for the community that I love and diligently serve in. You know, it deeply disturbs me and saddens me to hear stories that I hear here today of community seniors who have paid their fair share of taxes and now need simple home repairs. I can truly say to all of you, their stories are not strange to me. I've heard them myself. I've answered phone calls. I've received videos concerning leaking roofs, and I've advocated on their behalf. My community is fearful of retribution. Therefore, I'm speaking here on their behalf today because I have no fear. I don't know what that means. I have to advocate. I have to serve. I have to protect. As the Community Association President, CAC Chair of East Tampa CRA, and Community Advocator, I am respectfully requesting the homeowner-occupied rehab funds be awarded through an RFP. It is only fair. It will be the fair way to do this process, to have this process happen. If not, I know sometimes you all don't agree with the community. I ask that you send the CRA funds back to the CRA to be included in the homeowner-occupied rehab funds that are in the current CRA budget. I thank you for your time today, and for the rest of my life, I will continue to advocate for my community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Councilman Allison Hewitt, 4904 32nd Street. Here to talking about, I volunteer a lot of my time. And there are several boards that you have that people volunteer their time. That is time away from their family. That is also time that's away from their business where they can make money. But then they come forward and they make their recommendations. Again, they're just recommendations. You may take them, you may not. But at least make sure that these folks feel like their time was well invested. Now, there are some folks who say that there are only 2 or 3 people from East Tampa that come up and speak. And that's probably true. And there's a lot that can be said about the fear in the community. We had a gentleman just speak that said opposition research was done on him because he spoke. And so if he is a professional, what do you think the average homeowner who may work for the city, who may be in fear of coming up here to be able to say what their opinions are, what their challenges are? Because there is retribution that's out there. If they can go after a sitting city councilman, then they can go after me. They can go after anyone here. So if you can just take it into your heart to understand that there are a few of us who we stand up here, who our livelihoods do not depend on whether or not someone in the community comes after us, to be able to listen and be able to take heart to what they do. I will say also the non-subpoena power was concerning for me for not taking that recommendation. Just the other night, I was turning left on Hillsborough on 22nd. I was sideswiped. I turned on my hazards, didn't want to stop in the middle of Hillsborough Avenue to turn at the first available turn. The police officer came after me. He was behind us. He said, yes, I saw the gentleman hit you, but he came after me. He said, well, you were fleeing. I said, my hazards are on. I just turned the corner. Now, I'm shaken up because someone hit me. But now if that police officer had escalated, if there had not been people there, who was going to review that police officer? Someone else who went to the academy with them? Someone else because it could have gotten bigger because Why do you come after me? Is it because I had a FAMU tag, so you know I'm African American? Is it because I don't have tinted windows? I don't know. I respect police officers. I believe that their job is extremely difficult, but I do fear every time the lights go on behind my car. Regardless, I've not done anything, not speed, not do anything. But you just, as driving black in America, is dangerous. And so for you to be able to not allow at least to have transparency and accountability outside of their own is a challenge for the community. And they cannot come up here and speak and know that you will protect them if you are not even taking the recommendations for the people who it was hard for them to probably make their recommendations, because even if they were black and brown, they know it's going to follow them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Good.
Assistant Chief Johnson, can you make sure that, that Ms. Allison Hewitt had a police report filed or whatever, because it was a hit and run. I know we have two types of hit and run, and make sure that maybe she was frightened, make sure that we got the right thing going on. If you would do that for me, sir. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Keela McCaskill. For a while, in East Tampa, there's been a big push to jumpstart revitalization, and it's so needed. But one of the major concerns in the area is some of the programs that are rendered under the auspices of the city of Tampa. My concern is that we need a more effective process to accept, to score, to inspect the scope of work, to evaluate these invoices, the complaints with a quality assurance component. We owe that to the citizens, particularly the seniors, the most vulnerable group in this district. We owe that to them. I've spoken to several of them over time, and they address concerns with the contractors, but like some of you, they're afraid. If they publicly saw a public servant go under attack for not necessarily agreeing and coming forward, what do you think will happen to them is what they said. They believe, regardless of what their paperwork says, they believe that the government could come take their home because they accepted free work. These are seniors. They have all kinds of conspiracy theories, particularly for African Americans, but they're fearful to come forward. So I am coming on their behalf because I don't have fear. Come after, you can't get blood from a turnip, so come after me. But regardless of what the paperwork says, they're fearful. And why would we need them to come down here and fight, or even give them the idea that they need to come fight for what's right? Why do we need that from them? We've heard from some in this room today, and these people have paid in taxes over 30, 40, 50 years. We owe that to them. They paid in, and all they're doing is trying to benefit from the tax dollars that they paid into. So we've heard from some of those members today in the community. You've probably seen some examples, or at least I was sent some examples. And in those examples, do you really think those costs are acceptable as taxpaying citizens? Do you really think those costs represent being good stewards of our dollars as taxpayers? I want it on record that you have the information and that we came forth to share, that it shows that we're being irresponsible. So I'm asking for another process. Not improving another RFP opens the floodgates for more media exposure. It helps also to open up potential litigation because, again, it's under the auspices of the city of Tampa. Not only that, the word gets out that you're not accountable, that you don't have to be accountable when you submit an invoice. It can be exorbitant amounts of money. Nobody has a process in place to prevent that from happening. So do the right thing. Pull that off the agenda, make it go to an RFP, revise the process at HCD. There should be somebody internal that can look at a home that's 856 square feet and know that it's an exorbitant amount of money for it to be $36,000. Somebody should know that a water heater does not cost $7,800. And you should definitely know that the same amount shouldn't be on every single invoice. There's issues with that. But the city of Tampa signed off, rubber stamped their signature without a process. We need that in Tampa for those seniors. Today, I ask you to do what's right. You didn't listen to us Tuesday, but it's imperative that you listen today. This is the most vulnerable group of people in this city, and we need you to help. All we're asking, pull it and make a more effective process. That's it. You shouldn't be afraid to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Goose.
Ms. Hart, I know you work 2 hats. I prefer you, if the council will allow that you wait till your item comes up, and that way, with a lot of things going on with the housing department to rectify some of these situations and to talk about them, if you would. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning, Connie Burton. I just want to bring to your attention that of all the voices of African people here this morning, not good news that is coming out of our community, but a bunch of pain. Pain that sometimes that is already orchestrated, not by them, but those that control the dollars. We've seen this process for so long. Those of you who are not students of history, I would hope that you would take time to go back and just research COINTELPRO, how J. Edgar Hoover and even our dear friend Bobby Kennedy set up, spied on, caused confusion inside the Black community, Black leadership, Black organizations, so we can have just what we are seeing here today. What is controlling all of this is lack of hope in our community. You can bring 1,000 cameras, but you ain't gonna stop it. Never do we hear anybody from the administration talking about real opportunity for all the people. We done did the drug marches. We done sent people to prison. We done enhanced penalties, and we are still dealing with the same issues. We have even watched our own children charges be enhanced because you know what? They was identified as criminals, or either they had active mothers that just wouldn't shut up. And so we're experiencing this over and over again. And so I would say our new enemy in our community that can solve these problems will come from Mr. Bennett's office, followed by the mayor doing the right thing. Won't do it. Because she don't have any political ties to this community, this Black community. And so we're constantly struggling over the same peanuts over and over. If we got some real housing problems in our community, and this is not the first time you've heard it, the money that is controlled by the rehab department comes through the city. The city controls it. The city determines which houses it's going to be. The city writes off on it at the end of the day. And so the nonprofits are being used in our community. When you didn't want me to be the CRA leadership there, we had the same chorus, jump up, stop it. This is a divided city that has not done anything for Black people but allowed certain Black puppets to bark in the city's behalf, and we are sick of it. And hopefully, come March of 2023, even if we don't win, we put out a resounding voice through our vote that we're not going to be puppeteers for this administration. Bennett, do your job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great segue in. Robin Lockett, hey everybody. CRB, as elected officials, keyword is elected. You have an obligation to look out for the best interests of your constituency, not fall into the pressure of a couple of individuals over breakfast or lunch. This is deja vu to the housing situation that was brought before you a couple months ago. You didn't have the will to put it to the people to let them vote on it. You made the decision to say that it wouldn't work. You made the decision to put obstacles in. Thank you, Councilman Goose, Councilwoman Hertek, for your bravery in voting the right way. They weren't asking for you to make the decision Tuesday. They wanted the community to make the decision. But you didn't allow them to do that. Disappointment is coming from the community, just like Connie just said. And we can come up here every week to say the same thing to you, and you give us those stone faces and do nothing. Promise us behind the closed doors, because I lobbied a lot of you, right? But when it was time for it to happen, you were cowards and you cowered out. Election time is coming. My organization, that's why we haven't been here, because we are getting people elected. We're having a big march Saturday. Come out. Come out and see the march and see what you'll be up against in March. Because it doesn't make sense for you not to do the will of the people and you be pressured under lobbying, the last conversation that you have that threatens you, from what I understand. I don't know because I'm not in those conversations. But if you can't find the motivation to do your job, and that's look out for your constituencies, that one lobbyer can't vote you in. It's the multitude of the community that votes you in. That's it.
Thank you.
Tis not Tampa, Florida. I always have to say, uhuru, uhuru means freedom in Swahili. We say we as African people should always be thinking about our freedom. We should never be ashamed to step forward, to live, die, struggle, do whatsoever for our freedom. I'm so proud to see all these African women here today. I'm so proud to see that. To see that y'all have beat down the African men and we're in prisons, we're in other places, we're scared to come out. White folks scared to come out. It's that kind of Gestapo operation that's going on. This man right here, Chief Bennett or Mr. Bennett, whatsoever they called him, he pulled something that was so offensive and so nasty and so threatening right here in the city council when he took a picture and showed of Orlando Goulds and the mayor before a vote. What, that's supposed to be a threat? That's supposed to be intimidation? That's supposed to show capitulation? That's supposed to show, hey, like, look how he was then, but look how he is now, or look how he vote, to show some kind of dishonesty. That's the same as if you hear in the commercial they running right now against Anna Paluna, or whatsoever her name is, and the man say, hey, I was in the military, I did this, I did that, and he's running a commercial, and it's saying, gay, 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 gay. That's hateful. It's hateful, and what y'all doing to the African community and what y'all been doing to the African community is hateful. Hey man, I've been around for 60 years, 65 years, going to 70 years. And I've seen all kind of craziness, all kind of dumb housing programs, lottery, stand in line, all the way back to mayors that people don't even know. Mayor Poe, Greco, Sandy Friedman, way back. The guy that went up for governor. Hateful, what y'all doing to African people. It needs to stop. All the things y'all talking about, oh, like we need cameras, we need this, we need to buy this business, we need to do that. You know, white people don't have the same concerns, but you have to know at the top of the level is, the top of the line is, this city council or no other city council, they don't care about that. They want the city, they want the black community to go under. They want the black community to devolve so they can move in with gentrification. That is an official program. It's an official program. So black people coming down here week after week, year after year, decade after decade, begging, it's doing no good. They made a big issue about getting an attorney, an independent attorney on a board. Hey, this is America. That shouldn't be no big deal. None whatsoever. But what y'all guys are doing, it's so hateful. It's so anti-black. And until we African people can have a united voice and say we want reparations, not only from businesses and the federal government and the state government, but from this city government, when we have that united voice, that's where it's going to be at.
Thank you. Mr. Shelby.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. I just want to remind the chair and council and members of the public, please, Rule 5F, which states, in part, speakers shall refrain from launching personal attacks against any city official, city staff member, or members of the public. Comments shall be directed to the council as a body and not to individual council members. Just a reminder of that, Mr. Chairman and council, please. And thank you, members of the public.
Thank you. I believe we have 4 speakers online. Just 2. Who are they? Mr. Randolph, are you there?
Yes. My name is Michael Randolph, and I'm with the West Tampa Community Development Corporation. I want to start off first by thanking the nation for attending our most recent meeting on reducing street violence, a national approach. Those areas include California, New York, Philly, New Jersey, South Carolina, Virginia, DC, Baltimore, and Philly. Some of the most violent neighborhoods in the nation came to the table to talk about what they're doing. I especially want to thank Councilwoman Pertak and the City Council from St. Pete for attending that particular meeting to learn about what's going on around the nation. The meeting was dedicated to those that have lost their life in the streets and their family, those that live in fear, and more important, for those that are looking for a solution. Among those that attend was the Tampa Police Department, the Housing Authority Public Safety Committee, the Health Department, yes, both Republicans and Democrats, Department of Justice, Department of Juvenile Justice, and other agencies that attend. What we learned from that is that it's going to take the streets to save the streets. Again, I want to thank everybody for attending, and I apologize that we had 66 that were supposed to attend, 30 did attend, the rest were not able to get in because of Zoom. We are going to do a follow-up meeting because we did get a concern from residents that want us to do an evening meeting. What we do know, there are solutions to deal with the madness in our community. And we show that from people from around the country as to what we can do to solve the problem of this crazy violence in our neighborhood. But it starts with the community, taking back the streets. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Next, we're going to have Ms. Weymouth.
Ms. Tina Wayman, you have 3 minutes to speak. Please unmute yourself. Ms. Wayman, you're unmuted on the webinar, so you may have your personal device muted.
Councilman Carlson.
Yes, I'm very disturbed by some of the comments this morning. We've heard rumors that members of the city staff have done opposition research on city council members, but this morning we heard that potentially a staff person did opposition research on a member of the public. I would like to make a motion to ask the Tampa City Council attorney to enact Tampa City Council's investigative powers as defined in the charter, using an outside investigator to determine if any city staff on city time or devices were involved in the opposition research against James Shaw and why.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilwoman Hurtak. Pardon? All in favor?
Wait, may I speak?
Any discussion?
Yes, sir. So opposition research meaning what? Like social media, text, which would be Facebook, Twitter. I know, everybody's pretty active there.
The point is, if someone under the direction of an officer of the city or on city time or city devices did research against a member of the public to push a political agenda, I don't know what laws that might break, but people have First Amendment right to do whatever they want in their own time. My question is, I've heard so many rumors of opposition research being done that that I think we should look into this. And if an outside researcher finds that nobody did on city time or city devices, then fine. But I think we have an obligation to the public to not make people afraid. Several members of the public this morning said that they're afraid of retaliation by city staff. And I mean, this is the United States. These people moved to the United States so that they won't be in fear of retaliation by government. And we have a member of the public who claims that he was retaliated against, and others who are hinting that other people have been retaliated against. And I just want to make sure that if somebody from the city did that, that it was on their own time and not on city devices. But if somebody paid by the city or directed by the city did research on Mr. Shaw, I find that reprehensible and against basic American values of democracy.
Councilman Vieira.
Thank you. Can we get this brought up maybe at next week's hearing so that I can talk to staff on the repercussions of this? I mean, if someone is using city devices and city time for issues like that, that's obviously problematic, but I'm just worried about unintended consequences. Again, I understand the point of it, but can this maybe be brought up at the end of the meeting or something of that nature? Again, I just want to have all proper deliberation with this.
I'm fine if the seconder will go with it. I'm fine. I mean, Mr. Riera or Councilmember Riera, you have a lot of background in civil rights, and so it would be great if you would support this. But I made the motion. I would just ask that we bring back this motion for a vote at next week's meeting. Sure.
Next week's meeting, I'm sorry, next week's meeting, Madam Clerk?
It's a CRA.
Which is.
So can we do it at the evening session?
That's usually reserved. Pardon?
I want to put it on the agenda for a meeting. We can put it in 2 weeks if we want, but.
2 weeks.
Well,
November 17th.
I wouldn't go along with that because I'm not quite sure I'll be able to attend all of the November 17th meeting. I am fine with just because we put something on the agenda doesn't mean it's going to be solved right away. So I think that the idea of approving this motion is not really all that difficult, and we can get more information afterward. Because that's generally how our motions are made. We're making a motion to get more information. Or at least that's what I understood it to be.
Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. You know, this morning I heard gun violence. I was at a Reagan Park the other day. Councilmembers Goods and Hertak were there. I heard about this rehab program and our seniors. But we are focused, and these are real serious problems on top of housing. But we're focused so much on retribution, revenge, vengeance, getting even. All we do is fight. All we do is fight. And people are coming here with some serious issues, not just in East Tampa, but throughout the entire city of Tampa. And all it is constant threats. Constant something, or conspiracy or whatever. But, you know, we have real issues to solve, and we waste so much time on fighting.
Councilman Goods.
Mr. Rand has handled first. I'll get really different.
I'm listening very intensely, and I know there's some allegations today brought forward. And before I go any further, those allegations have to be looked at and reviewed to make sure that all the facts are there. Not that anyone's saying something is not factual, but in life, if you say something, you tell somebody else, and somebody else tells you, by the time you go 3 down, it changed from a battleship to a full war, atomic war. So it's got to change. It's got to find out what all the facts are. There's allegations here about roofs. There's allegations about paying 3 times the amount, $38,500 for an 800 square foot home roof is certainly way out of line. $25,000 is way out of line. Maybe $14,000 is still way out of line. 1,800 square foot roof, I don't know how many squares there are, but a roof costs by the squares. Now, whether they did the job right or not, I don't know. There was a hump before. I guess it was a hump afterwards. The hump wasn't removed, then they charged them again for it, I guess. So I got to get all the facts regarding not only that case, but all the other allegations that we've had today. I'm not opposed to it, but I want to see all the information come in before we start a full-blown investigation.
Councilman Goods.
I can see some of the point Mr. Carson made, but there are other avenues, Mr. Carson, before we can get to that level. You know, I do know, and I'm candid about it, that I do know that there was some opposition things done against me, Mr. Miranda. Some folks went to the union and asked the union to do some things that they said, no, we won't do that. So that is true. That does happen. But what I will say, if you do have an internal affairs unit, even though an officer does work for the union at the time, they're still a police officer, and they're still held to those standards as well. So, in reference to maybe Mr. Carlson's motion has done, if Mr. Shaw wants to file a complaint, or Assistant Chief Johnson is here, and the major, they've heard what the possible allegation, they can automatically go and write a service level complaint and have that looked at, and send that over to Internal Affairs. I think that's one avenue versus the whole blown out, getting an outside attorney to be paid for. But again, any officer, no matter if they are part of the union or not, they're still under the rules of Internal Affairs regardless, and that can be sent over to Internal Affairs for investigation.
I agree with that.
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, I would just say to Councilmember Maniscalco, you implied that the civil rights of our citizens is not important. Sure, there are other issues that are here, but the most basic right for Americans is civil rights. And if someone's civil rights were breached, I think that's an incredible violation. We've heard lots of allegations of this, but this is the first specific example where somebody said it publicly on the record, and it concerns me. The second thing is that, Councilman Maniscalco, you keep over and over and over again saying you wish there was peace, you wish people would start fighting. You're implying that I or we are causing that fighting. We're not. I would like to ask you today, please ask the administration to stop fighting with us. Ask them to come apologize to us. Why are they doing opposition research on us? Why are they doing opposition research on people? Why is the staff of the mayor bringing in people to speak in favor of the Renting While Black program? It's dirty politics, and we should be able to have a straight-on conversation and discuss, and the executive branch should respect the separation of powers of the city council and allow us to do our jobs without interfering. Last week was a disgusting display of power.
Councilman Carlson, can we?
Yes, let's have a vote.
Can we please move forward?
I can say this.
I'm sorry, Mr. Carlson, I'm sorry. Mr. Chairman, are you pulling back Mr. Carlson from the floor?
No.
Yes, no, I'm not, but I'm saying we have to move forward. We still have a motion on the table. Councilman Carlson, are you still wanting that motion to be voted on, or are you pulling back your motion?
Yes, I would like it to be voted on, please.
Wait, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
1 second. Mr. Shelby.
If council wants to vote on it, that's fine, but this is something that's off the agenda that came as.
And the sooner we get this resolved, the sooner we can get to the agenda, the reason why most of these people that are in the audience. Councilman Vieira, please make it quick, and then we'll go to Councilman Miranda.
I can, again, can we have this voted on at the end of the meeting instead of going on, and would that at least have it done today, but at the end of the meeting?
Is that a request or in the form of a motion?
Request. I'm not gonna.
Councilman Miranda.
Chairman, thank you very much. Any allegations of any wrongdoing that was done publicly and that happened here today, and I agree with Councilmember Goods, the first step is to take it to the Internal Affairs Department. They're the one that does the investigation and bring back a report. Based on that report, if we either accept it or not accept it, you do something else, whatever that may be. But you have to have a starting point. The starting point is let those that are trained for that do their job. And without other first hesitation, I agree with Councilman Goods. That is an allegation based on something, and then to clear the air or to take the pollutants out of the bay, we have to do this to make sure everything is fine. And those police officers, whether they're in or out of the union, took an oath of office to do what they're doing now. I agree with Councilman Goods. That should be the first step to find out what the realities are of life. I myself, many times in the past, Internal Affairs have come in to see me regarding a police officer, and I had to testify for what I knew or what I didn't know. And that went on this years ago. So that went on. Whatever happened to the case, I really don't know.
Councilman Goods.
And I'm sure right now probably the Internal Affairs captain is probably watching this video and probably already going to start that, probably already, I can assure you. That's pretty much how it works. So I'm sure somebody from the command level will probably be looking into this right away, Mr. Carlson. That's just my perspective. I think let's see what it comes back, and then from there, if it doesn't, I think you may take the next step levels. But I think let the Internal Affairs unit, which the police officer does, still is a police officer. And I know people don't believe in internal affairs all the time, but sometimes it does work. I've seen sometimes where it doesn't work, but 9 times out of 10, it does work. So that would be my recommendation to you. If again you want to make your motion, I have no problem with that.
Councilman Maniscalco.
When I mean, let's stop fighting, it's all inclusive. Here, there, in the public, everything. We're not getting anywhere. I'm not singling out anybody or a single body. It's enough. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I clarify the motion real fast? The motion is for staff to look at staff, not the police. In other cases that we've heard of, other staff have supplied information to other people, and so this is not about the police. It wouldn't be covered. Looking at internal investigation wouldn't cover it. It's possible that that police were not involved in the opposition research. It's possible somebody else was, and so that to look at all staff, not the police.
Councilman Good.
All right, well, I guess as a clarification, I'm thinking, Mr. Shaw made a statement in reference to the vice president of the union, so he's still a part of the city and he's still a part of the police department, so that's why I'm looking at he's still a part of staff regardless. I mean, he's working for the police department. He's an employee of the city. So I get what you're saying, but I think for this basis right here, the allegation that was made today, now if you're saying you want to look at some other stuff or other things that happened, then maybe that's a different motion. But I think what I'm hearing, what was brought up was about the issue right here with Mr. Shaw.
Madam Clerk.
Mr. Shelby, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'm just want to be clear on the motion, and certainly there are a lot of components into being able to comply with this, and it certainly will take some investigation on my part to be able to find out. Certainly if it's an outside attorney, there's also budgetary impact and the like. This section, in my experience as city council attorney, has never been invoked, so this would be something that would involve some report to council as to what the process would be. So I just wanted you to keep that in mind, but certainly council is absolutely free to express its desire under the process of making a motion, and then I will be able to report back as soon as possible. If you want to hold it, I can perhaps even do it during lunch today and have the opportunity. But that's your call, and if council wants to express its sentiment now, I understand that as well.
Councilman Miranda, one last round of discussion, please, council
I
members.
appreciate it very much, Chairman, but if I remember the text, and I think Mr. Goods said it in a very nice way, that was a good citizen making an accusation against a good officer, or whatever the deal was. It's up to the internal affairs to start that investigation. Where it goes, I don't know. But that's the way, I mean, I've seen some of those done many years ago. They're not many, but they're far in between, but they do an investigation. And when I tell you they do a thorough investigation, they do a thorough investigation. So we have already that staff on hand. Let them do the investigation, report back to us. What more can they have?
Any further discussion? All I know is, are you finished? Are you finished?
Yeah, I just want to repeat again, this is not necessarily about the police.
Not finished, so please, you're recognized.
I just want to say that it's not necessarily about the police, it's about staff and finding out if anybody on staff did that. To make sure that, I mean, affecting somebody's civil rights is the most basic American right, and I don't understand. By the way, the city of Tampa is under the second civil rights investigation by the Department of Justice in 7 years, and I think we have to protect civil rights. And if this is not the process and if this fails, which it sounds like it will, I hope somebody else will provide something else. We tried the other day to protect people's civil rights and failed. I hope we will find some way to do that.
Council members, this is the last round of discussion, please. Councilman Vieira.
Again, I think it's proper to vote on this at the end of the meeting. I have a question for Mr. Shelby and on civil service issues, et cetera, in scope. I mean, that's my only request, but whatever.
Councilman Goods.
Mr. Carlson, if you give a little deference and let Mr. Shelby research the charter and those responsibilities and whatever, and maybe by lunchtime, or at lunchtime, he can come back at the end, and then we can discuss it at the end. I agree with Mr. Vieira on this one here, that let Mr. Shelby tell us what the facts are, what we can do, what we can't do, and then if there is something we can do or whatever, then we look at that and take a vote on it.
Mr. Chair, I'll withdraw my motion and present at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are now moving on to our staff reports. There are a couple things that have been asked of this council. We have a walk-on agenda item that we said we were going to take first. We also have another item, number 35, that we were going to ask to be taken during staff reports. And we also have a request from Chief Tripp to hear 3 up at the beginning of those agenda items 8, 9, and 10, because she also has to be somewhere else. What I would like to do at this time, if I hear no objections, take the walk-on agenda item first so that our state representative can go about her duties, and then go on to Chief Tripp.
And Chair, if I may.
Excuse me, I apologize. We will take Councilman Good's walk-on agenda item first, because you said that would take such short time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And just for the public, if I may, that's why I ran outside. I agreed to give some award for the Florida State Fair. I thought it was the Florida State Fair that's about 12 minutes away. It turns out it's in Dover. I find out, yeah, I didn't know it was in Dover, so I know. So I was trying to call to see if things could get pushed, et cetera. But I probably should leave here like around 11:10 or so to get there by noon. Again, my apologies to the public. I'll try to get back as soon as I could. When I made that commitment for that noon, I thought it was going to be a lot shorter. So my apologies. That's why I ran outside. Thank you.
Councilman Goods.
Yes, sir. Chairman, as you know, there's a vacancy that has occurred. Mr. Joseph Johnson, who served distinguished on our Budget and Finance Committee, resigned. It is my duty to appoint another person out of my district. I'm making selection of Allison, who's known in financing and budgeting, to get her as an appointment to the committee.
We have a motion made by Councilman Goode, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Let's go to, with council's approval, let's go to agenda item number 5.
Chairman, I would take 8, 9, and 10. We can't take 8, 9, and 10 this quick. It's all right.
Did you want to do your staff reports, or you want me to speak to Agenda 5 and some of the things that have been said?
Representative Hart.
Yes, sir. My name is Diane Hart, and I am representing East Tampa Business and Civic Association. My heart bleeds this morning. I've been doing this job since 1999, and never have we ever had this type of accusations against our organization ever. When people talk about coming to council and speaking to you all, I live in the community. I was born and raised in the community. Nobody's afraid to talk to me. You heard the lady say she called my house at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I never turn off my phone. I answer it every single call, no matter what time it is, because it's my community. But to be accused of doing substandard work, have a contractor say he's being discriminated against because we're not doing the MBE or the WMBE and not allowing him to have his right. When you have a contractor working in this program, and he had 17 jobs since 2019, he was suspended twice. Well, let's say he was put on probation twice for substandard work. He was suspended from the program twice. This last time was doing work while he was still working for us. So it's not the first time that he's told me that he will sue me, East Tampa, City Council. But how do you sue us when we have every single item documented? It's not like we just decided, oh, one day we're going to suspend you. No, over long periods of time, after meeting in my office with me, the contractor of record for our organization, and my staff, and we tell you what's substandard, and we don't write you up, and we just let you go back with a promise that you'll do better. But you can only do that so many times. So that was the reason why we could no longer allow him to work for East Tampa Business and Civic Association. That was number one. And I'm sure the city will speak to it, and they have it in great detail. Then let me speak about Ms. Browning. Ms. Browning got a private contractor to work on her house. Another citizen called me and said, could you please come and just talk to the two sides and see if you can bring something solvable to this issue? I said yes, only because I'm born and raised in the community, not as a representative, not representing East Tampa, but as a person in my community. So I met with her and the contractor under the pretense that I thought they had reached an agreement by the time I left that house. To find out later, after I left, their whole agreement fell apart. They got into an argument and everything went left. But I need the city to understand, East Tampa Business and Civic had no part in the building of her house. She contracted with a contractor. Just so happens the contractor works in the program. But everybody knows that in order for a contractor to be on good footing with the city of Tampa, they are vetted. The city investigates anything that they get as a complaint about a contractor associated with the program. Ms. Browning's house had nothing at all to do with a rehab program. It's a new construction. And I can tell you personally, because I went to talk to both sides, they had no real agreement, which baffled me that you're building a house and you all don't have a real agreement. But I had nothing to do with it. So I could not do anything to that contractor about her involvement with Ms. Browning's house. That's a private deal. But I take issue with people saying, folk are afraid to talk to you, but you're not afraid to talk to me because we've done several hundred. I have letters to show you after every rehab. We ask the homeowner, are you satisfied? Was the work up to your standards? How were you treated by the contractor? We have those letters that I'm happy to bring in or send to you all to share with you. So if I had 2 complaints out of 111 people, I was truly blessed. Mr. Gruber's house was quagmire, something very different, something I'd never even ever run into before. However, Mr. Gruber is not paying for that additional work. I was in Tallahassee when his house was being worked on. I drove home to meet with him at his residence, along with the contractor and the city staff and the city inspector, who looked at the house from the sky, from something he had had long before, and said, this was there all along. But we agreed to take off the roof and redo it. But what he's not talking about is the fact that it wasn't just about the squares. They had to redo all the wood and stuff once they removed it to try and correct it, because whomever had put his roof on had left several layers, and that's where that hump was on his roof. We have been through this over and over. We've been through the news. We've been in the newspaper about it. We tried to do everything we possibly could to remedy this. He said the contractor spit on his rug. He said that they left his doors open. Everything about this situation was very different than anything I've ever encountered. But I want you all to know, one thing about our organization, I don't tolerate substandard work. For me, those are people in my neighborhood. And I do everything I can. And nobody can ever tell you that I don't show up. If anybody calls my office and says a contractor has done anything, I personally go to that site. Because the one thing I'm not going to do is put a lien on somebody's house and walk away and say, oh, well, it's okay. But what people are not standing here and saying is, contractors, we bid. They do the work. We have an inspector that inspects it. The city has, they have an inspection department that comes out and inspects it. Somebody said there should be HQS. City sends an HQS inspector. We do not get paid unless that work is completely complete and is signed off by everybody. I put up my own money, not mine personally, East Tampa Business and Civic money to pay the contractor while I wait for the city to reimburse me. There's no way I will be putting my money out on a substandard job. So I take issue with this. And for me, it's personal because I live this community, have 67 years. I would never do anything to any of my community, senior or young, and everybody in the program is not a senior. So please understand, this program is not just seniors. So whatever you all decide to do, I'm okay with that. Because for me, it's all about my community. And does it hurt? It hurts deeply to have somebody stand and drag me through the mud and say, we're doing substandard work, we don't care, we're not paying attention. That's not true. So I leave this with you all. As long as East Tampa Business and Civic Association is a part of the city's housing program, we will always do top-notch work. If I have contractors in this program that don't live up to it, we put them out. First, I suspend them. They get another opportunity. We take them from being able to bid on 3 properties down to 1. And then if you don't complete that one and grow again to get to your 3, then you don't get to do work with us. And we do put people out of, well, I don't get to put them out. They get to put them out finally, but I will file the necessary documents to indicate to the city that that person is not living up to my standards. I don't pick the contractors. They're vetted by the city. And once they're vetted, then I am required to use them. And I use every single one of them. I understand we have a complaint that we're taking anybody we want. Please, you all, understand, I'm a professional, 37-year business owner, been with East Tampa since 1999, now I'm a legislator. I take my job very seriously on all the aspects. We never just pick anybody to do work. It's bidded on. The lowest bidder within that 15% gets that job, unless I know you've bid it too low and you're coming back for change orders, which we talked about before. I'm not going to take your bid. Our bids are open with contractors sitting in the room. Once the bids are open, we send them over to the city so they can see that we've chosen the best person according to that bid. So, you know, rumors are easy, but people should stand up and tell the truth. And if you had a problem, nobody called me. So if you had a complaint, nobody called me. And East Tampa Business and Civic is always open. Our books are always open. We're always open. We take this very seriously. And I tell you, it's a very difficult thing to stand here and hear people talk about your organization, knowing that we do the best we can with what we have. So I appreciate you all allowing me to speak to you again today. But no, we don't take this lightly. Every single complaint is a concern to me. And if you have one, then you bring it to our organization. They don't have to bring it to City Council. You're second. I need to know you have a complaint. You can't fix it, but we can. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Goods.
if Ms. Travis is going to come up, you've heard the several alleged things that have been said in reference to the program. I want to make sure that you're able to talk about those issues with your housing personnel, and so we can clear these up as we talk about the minority business and so forth and so on. How does that work? Is the process, making sure we have all the details so the public we can air this out, we can clear the air, we can move on, and if there's something needs to be adjusted or whatever, we do that. Thank you.
Good morning, Council. Nicole Travis, Administrator of Development and Economic Opportunity. So there was a lot of communication going on this morning, and a lot of it has nothing to do with the Housing and Community Development Department. I just want to put that out there. Mr. Grubber came and spoke to you about his roof, and that was in the media. You need to understand that Mr. Grubber said this morning that he did not get a response. In fact, our attorney's office sent him a letter on December 23rd, 2021, and we've spoken to him even after that. There was some buckling in the roof, and Housing and Community Development Office went back and fixed his house. The amount of money that he's talking about that was done to replace his roof, I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. $2,500 was spent on siding, $10,000 was for his roof repair, $8,400 was for HVAC system, a water heater was $1,400, and extermination was $1,500. That's for Mr. Gruber's house. Representative Hart talked about the process in the contractor list that we have. We have a total of 5 minority contractors on a list of 16. Mr. Reeves received 23 projects since 2019. And he beat me to it today because I have a letter that's coming out to council. They'll probably get it to you this afternoon, because you got a certified letter from Mr. Reeves in the mail claiming discrimination and that he is not allowed on the program anymore. That's because we have a list of complaints about Mr. Reeves' construction company. He's done work without permit. He's had improper permits. He's been notified about it. He's been warned about it. He's been suspended before and is being suspended again. So that's Mr. Reeves, and I'll email that detailed letter to you. He was removed from the contractors list in Clearwater for similar actions.
Repeat that, please.
He was removed from a similar program contractors list from the city of Clearwater for similar things that we are suspending him for from our program. There was a lot of talk about retaliation and retribution. I just want to make it very clear that that's not coming from the city staff or the city office. The comments about retaliation and retribution, that's not coming from my office. So I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know that's not coming from us. So the comments that are being launched out there, it's being pulled as if it's part of the city program. I will never stand before you and say our programs are perfect. I would never say that. We always have an opportunity to improve, streamline. The programs that we have for our owner-occupied rehab are audited by HUD. And I think that we can ask our internal audit department to do an audit on our work, on our programs as well. We're always looking for ways to improve. So the comments that we hear and working alongside our nonprofits, we're constantly looking for ways to improve, but we're also constantly looking at how we can continue to support our residents and our citizens. A few months ago, every week I was before you talking about housing affordability and trying to repair homes. And what we've done is use an existing contract that we had so that we didn't stop service in the owner-occupied rehab program and continue that service with our nonprofit, with a partner nonprofit. We put out an RFP and there were 2 respondents, one of which was the East Tampa Business and Civic Association, the other was the CDC. And the CDC was using the East Tampa Business and Civic Association as a sub-recipient to the grant. So we moved forward because those were the only 2 that we had, and we had an existing contract, and we did that so that at no point did the program stop and that we could continue to serve the residents of Tampa. There's over 120 people on that list. And so the choice is before you. I spoke to most of you earlier this weekend, laid out a choice for you. You can continue to serve the people that are on the list that are waiting for roof repairs, or you can reset and issue an RFP again, and hopefully we get more respondents. The process that we've used was an RFP process, but we can't help if we don't get a lot of respondents. And I'm just being very frank with you. There's a capacity issue. You have not only a housing crisis, you have labor shortages. There's a lot of supply shortages. There's a lot going on that creates the perfect storm that we're in. And there's a capacity issue. So some nonprofits are not taking on projects like this because they cannot spend the money, particularly if they got CARES fund. They're under spending deadlines and they're at capacity. So they are monitoring how many additional programs they take on in fear of not being able to spend the money in time. And so we are putting out an RFQ to try to get contractors. We were doing it directly. We are going to continue to do this with partners in nonprofits and going directly to the contractors. But until then, this is what we have before us. If we put the RFP out again, Would we get more respondents? Probably. And you can expand the program that way. So the choice is for you today, council. It's a difficult decision, but it's not staff's decision. I'm not going to stand for that decision for you. You can either move forward with, as you've requested us to, or you can put the RFP out again.
Councilman Goods.
People are hurting. And I'm going to show a video later on. People are hurting. You told me that capacity. If I don't have the people here in the city of Tampa, Hillsborough County that can do the job or can't take on the job, then you need to put the RFP out all over the state or in another state. I don't really care. I care about people getting service and getting the job done. If you don't have enough people here in this city to get the job done, and you just told me that even the CDC is giving more work to Ms. Hart, and it's only so much work she can do.
Yeah, even if she were to move forward, she wouldn't complete the list of people that's on the list.
And so I get these calls every day. What about more people calling? So let's just go ahead and just go ahead and do what we need to do, and get other people who could be certified or whatever the process is. I don't care if it's out of state, whatever. Get them here to start working.
And if you were to reissue the RFP, there's a chance that you can get maybe the nonprofit. Maybe situations have changed with the nonprofits. Maybe there are new nonprofits or other nonprofits that could participate, that would like to participate. You made a good point. Usually, I wouldn't say usually. In my past experience, when I tried to get minority participation in, particularly in construction or trades field, we'll go to the areas and help them fill out the forms to do that. And so it's not just here in Tampa, it's a capacity issue, and you're right. We should reach out to neighboring counties and
you got a
contractors
business
that
bridges, whatever it is called, or whatever with Hart and all them. I mean, let's do what we need to do to get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how effective that program really is, to be honest with you, but whatever we got to do, let's get it moving to where we can get people service. That's what they're crying about, service.
It's effective. Again, it's capacity. It's the same thing that I am sharing with you, and I come and I share with you when you talk about housing affordability, when you talk about the programs. And I'm going to just take this time, if I may, Mr. Chair, a moment of privilege. We spent months talking about housing affordability, came before this council, worked on months of bringing you recommendations, and we did that last week only to be turned away as if it was the first time to be heard. So when you talk about capacity, working on things for months and then council deciding not to act on it is hard when we have other programs like this and we should be spending our time on. So I'm coming off very frustrated this morning, and I am. So we are working hard to move things forward. If it is a direction to issue another RFP, we can be creative and try to get other nonprofits. We can reach out to contractors beyond city limits to do that. We're willing to do that. We're willing to do the work. But don't make me do the work and then council decides not to act on it.
But maybe you can include that with people that, or maybe you only need painting done. People may only need a roof, some stuff.
Yes, so to your point, like there's trades, you could do trades. Somebody may just need HVAC. And so we're trying to put out a list that where you can triage and then we could directly contract with those people that may not necessarily need a roof, but also trying to layer funding. Ms. Tate was here earlier, and I know East Tampa CRA is frustrated. They've been asking for owner-occupied for a long time. We put out for a third-party RFP. That did not come back favorable. I am confident. I'm confident that if we streamline the process with our Housing and Community Development Department and provided the right resources, which I'm coming to speak to you about with CRA because you're adding additional funding, you will be able to move these programs faster. I can't move a Navy ship in a different direction overnight. We have to slowly and methodically do that. But every time we pull the rug and change gears, we're losing ground.
I believe in you. If you said is what you needed, if you whatever the tool, if you have a tool that's going to get us there, then by almost say, council, this is the tool I feel is going to get us there now. But I mean, but not a fluff. But again, you've been trustworthy and this council, and every time you come, you move the needle. So if that's what you're saying you need, then let's move the needle.
Councilman Goods.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I believe Councilwoman Hurtak has a question. Councilwoman Hurtak.
Oh, no. If you're done, are you done?
I'm done.
Please signify that. Thank you.
So this is the third year of this agreement, correct?
So we put out an RFP earlier this year, and the only 2 respondents we got, well, we removed that. But we already had a contract.
Okay.
And so we're adding to it since that was the only respondent anyway.
Got it. But is there anything precluding us from going forward and then also opening up for additional people to work under the East Tampa Business and Civic Association? Do we?
Sorry. Yeah, just give me 1 second.
Can we
Yeah.
sort of have just like an open RFP I mean, not open, but
I
you
know
know,
what you mean.
every 2 months, something like that, so that we can
No, we
get.
can't do that.
We can't. Okay.
We can't do
No,
that.
no,
That's
no.
gonna kill me.
No.
But I
okay.
understand what you're saying,
So-
right? So you're saying, if we were to approve the contract today, what precludes us from opening an RFP and adding more to the program? And so just talking with Kayon and Abby, we have enough money to do that. And so we can issue an RFP to bring in more providers if you decide to move forward today. Now, let me say this, that issuing another RFP to get additional nonprofits and contractors just need to register with us and they can get on the list. But to allow more nonprofits to come in, it's not something I can bring back to you in 30 days, that's 90 days.
Then I'm talking about contractors. I'm
Okay.
talking so again, this is a 3-year contract. Should we talk about what we do after this contract is over for the next round of contracts? Yes, I believe that's something that we could talk about with nonprofits and things at a later date. But what I'm trying to do is get people, I agree with Councilman Goods 100%. We just need to get people on the ground, get houses, get things started. And if there's a way that we can encourage more contractors to join so that we are not focused on one contractor that people have issues with.
I need to clarify something. So we have a list of about 16 or 20 contractors, and then you have the nonprofit that works with housing and community development. So you get the application, it goes to the nonprofit. We need more contractors, yes, but you need other nonprofits to help facilitate that work.
Okay.
And so
you
it's
need
not,
both.
yes, you need both, because the contractors on the list, as Ms. Hart, Representative Hart talked about earlier, you put it out to bid. And there was, I didn't touch on that earlier, but you put the project out to bid. A scope is written up, you put the project out to bid. You invite all the contractors that's on the city's list of approved contractors to bid on the project. We take the lowest, most responsive bid, and I'm gonna say most responsive bid, because if you take the lowest bid, and as Representative Hart said, Mr. Greaves is known for that as well, bidding very low to get the contract and then doing change orders that pushes the contract up. And so when I say low is most responsive bid, so you have a nonprofit that gets the work, and Representative Hart, the East Tampa Business and Civic Association can only do so many houses at a time, even with contractors. You need additional nonprofits. We need other partners in this. So it's not just the contractors. If you want to do more, you have to have more nonprofits.
So my question is, can we do both at the same time? I'm seeing Abby nod.
They're saying yes. Is she saying yes? I'm not even looking.
And Kayon is also nodding.
I'm afraid I'm not looking.
Outside.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Outside.
Yeah. So it's a matter of, like we were saying earlier, move forward. We have enough money. Right now, what they're doing is rolling over funds. We have new funds. So this contract that's before you is with funds that are being rolled over, correct? Yes, so we have new funds. So if you put out another RFP, again, I try to manage your expectations that you don't think I'm coming in here next week with a list.
No.
You put out an RFP for 30 days, you have respondents, you have to review it, you get them qualified, we work with the attorney's office to get the contracts and come before you 90 days or not, no? 90 days.
For something else.
Oh, she was coming for something else. I thought she was gonna knock me. So just so that I manage that.
Does that include outside organizations?
Which part?
Not within the city of Tampa, because the ones you named, they're all inside Tampa. But I'm saying, if you're saying if you need other nonprofits, can they be outside of Hillsborough County? If you're saying you need somebody.
Abby's nodding.
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay, well, I think that's a great idea, you know, we got Ms. Wellness Hart, CDC, or whatever, you know.
We will tap into Councilman Carlson's marketing skills, like, we'll go out.
Yeah, okay. He's been all over the world, you know. Yeah.
Good morning, Kayon Henderson, Manager for Housing and Community Development Division. So I just wanted to add a little bit to what Ms. Travis stated. So one, when we did issue the RFP, we reached out to a lot of different organizations. We had nonprofits as far as Orlando come, but we only had the 2 respondents. So we did push it out as much as we could, but we only had those 2 respondents. The other thing is what's tied up in this agreement and the amendment is our SHIP funds, our state funds, which is about $900,000, close to $1 million. And we are facing an expenditure deadline with this. And so if we don't amend it and we then go to a new one, we just risk that. We have the risk of losing those funds. And so those are additional funds that then would not go to the family members that need it.
I think I said that too, in some of your briefings that I forgot to say.
Yes, I remember that. Is there a way, though, that we could, I don't want to open up a whole nother can, but I do want to touch on the person who has the $38,000 roof for an 800 square foot house. And if there's a way we could, and I know it's sort of been explained, but I still don't understand how it was $25,000 to fix it. So if there's a way we could get maybe some investigation or a report, like a written report somehow.
We haven't, we did it.
Oh, great. Well, that wasn't.
It.
Yeah, so if I would really love a copy of that, and if there's a way to make it public somehow for members of the community that might be interested in it, I would really like folks to see that. And if something was done wrong and the contractor has been talked to about overpayment or issues, because to me it sounds like if you have an issue like that, it probably should land you on a warning list.
Yeah, so yes. And so like I outlined for you, Mr. Reeves, we were made aware of issues and it came to us from the homeowner, from Mr. Reeves.
Okay.
There was a lot of conversation this morning about in fear of retaliation, and I told you when I first came up, that's not retaliation from us, from the city staff. So if we don't have complaints that's coming to us directly or something hard, Ms. McCaskill provided me a lot of documentation. Last night we've spoken about it. We're going to go back and look at it, and if we find something that's egregious, absolutely we're gonna do it, but we can't investigate what we don't know, right? And so we've been made aware of it. We're going to research it. We're gonna do our due diligence. We don't want anyone taking advantage of any of our residents, and especially our elderly residents. We don't tolerate that at all, so we'll look into it.
So, and I guess once you finish with that, at least give us an email.
I'll give you an update, sure.
Yeah, we would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Council, I just want to share something that Nicole's office and my office are working on with Mr. Spearman's office. Council has approved, and we started this and we put it back out for RFP when I first got here because I didn't like the EBO aspects, the equal business opportunity aspects. We reinitiated a job order contracting program that has certified vendors. The EBO work has really grown in that space over the last couple of years. I monitored on a dashboard with Osea Wynn's office, with Mr. Hart's office, and there's a meeting set up, and we have full control of these contractors to do these repairs in the city. And we want to explore the ability to use that job order contracting in the public domain to see if we can, and again, I know legally I'll get kicked for this, but it's not officially a state of emergency, but it's an emergency. And so we're looking for creative solutions as early as next week to see if that job order contracting, which is full of EBO opportunity, can be controlled by city staff to serve the public the same way it serves city facilities.
We work very closely with Chief and Mr. Spearman on that. Elise Drumgo, our Deputy Administrator, and Cedric McCray, the East Tampa CRA manager have been working and taking small little pilot groups for us to kind of work out the kinks before we push this. And so that's what we're doing. We're trying. We heard you.
I know you're working hard. We know.
We heard you loud and clear. I'm gonna relax a little bit and take a deep breath.
I just have, I have one more question
Yes.
because this is still new to me. When you get a contractor, when you're vetting these folks, when you get a story, like the woman whose house is a problem, not part of our program, but once you know that story, is that put into that contractor's dossier?
We have, so we don't take, you have to be very careful in taking hearsay.
Sure.
And, impacting people's livelihood and businesses, and you have to be very careful for that. But beyond housing and community development, you have a construction services department of certified professional and a building official that has taken an oath, and our job is public safety.
Okay.
And so that's under my portfolio as well. So if there is a permit that is issued on a project, it has to meet the Florida Building Code requirements before it's approved, inspected, and the permit closed. And so you have to, we don't go and investigate everything that we hear hearsay, but if there's an open permit or an active permit that can be referenced, we will look into it. We take this stuff very seriously. My portfolio, number one, is public safety and quality of life. We might have badge, we're not coming out with sirens, but we're in charge of your safety coming into this building. We're in charge of your safety going into your home and the person that purchases your home after you do. And those are things that we take very seriously.
Thank you. I just, like I said, still learning.
I'm wound up.
I appreciate it.
One last thing since you're on there.
Mr. Good, you're recognized. Councilman Good, you're recognized.
Ms. Travis, and I hear what you're saying, but I personally went to that home, personally. And if a building inspector inspected that home, he should be fired.
Well, so Abby just whispered in my ear that the building official is investigating this. So,
okay.
We could talk offline,
That's
not
fine.
just because if it was inspected,
yeah.
let me just finish. If it was inspected and released and it was improper, I will take care of that as well. So, please.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I understand that cue. Thank you.
Did I finish your
Yes,
question?
sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Carlson.
I'm relatively new to this too, so pardon my ignorance. It sounds like city staff is doing lots and lots of work related to all of this, all the stuff that you just described. What's the reason to outsource any of it to a nonprofit? And do nonprofits charge a markup or something? How do they get paid? And by the way, I have not looked this up myself, but I understand someone told me they looked up the 990, and in the nonprofit that we're talking about apparently represent part in the 990 does not take a salary. I don't know if that's true or not, but is it, so I wonder, is this a service that the nonprofit is doing? Are they providing staff for free to manage this, or do we pay them to manage it? And why, what's the value?
There is an administrative fee to the nonprofits for administering programs. Almost all nonprofits take an administrative fee. I'd have to go look at the contract to see
Is
how
it
much.
like 10% of the total or something? Is it, she's
10,
nodding.
10, huh?
Okay.
10%.
And
10%
how
of
much
total.
is that? Is it like 300,000 then, or?
Hold on, I have a bunch of papers in front of me. What's
And
the
if you all looked at the comparison of what it would cost to hire staff to do this or outsource in another way?
Yes, I didn't do your math calculation. I'll let somebody else back here do that. But you said if we were to staff up and do it
Have you done
internally
analysis?
ourselves?
I know you're new. Have you
yeah.
done analysis to say that it's better, more effective to do it through a nonprofit than to do it ourselves?
Yes, I wouldn't say that it was a detailed analysis, but when you start talking about not just salary and benefits, you have to put people someplace, and we're at capacity. There's not a lot of places to go, and I would have to staff up a lot to be able to do this. I am asking for additional staffing through the CRA with the additional money that you're adding to the housing program. You approved 8 full-time employees in fiscal year '23 for housing programs. So we are staffing up, but there's a balance on when you say you can do it all yourself. And let me just put a pin in that for a second. Local government cannot solve all issues in a community. We need our nonprofit partners to come alongside us. And so this is a space that they can also serve, and that we can outsource some of that for a lower cost, because it's building space, it's training, it's all of that. We're beefing up our staffing so we could put more money out, but we need our nonprofit partners to do this as well.
Just one last thing. This is Orlando Good's district. I know they're doing some things outside of East Tampa, but he's closely monitored this, so I will take his advice and direction on what to do.
Oh, okay.
Is there any other questions? Any other comments?
I don't have any other questions, sir.
I need some direction.
I'm sorry?
I need some direction, please.
And what is the pleasure of council?
For me, I don't want to hold up progress. We're already way behind the 8 ball. We got to get this money spent. You've already explained what's going on in reference to Ms. Browning's house. You've explained to us about Mr. Reeves, and that's an offline conversation that maybe your office can have with him in contract services, because you've explained it and it's on record of what the problem is. Going forward, I'd like you to open it up, get other contractors in, other nonprofits, and keep it moving. So I'd like to make the motion, make it move to approve and with the corrections.
Second. And Mr. Chairman, thank you very much, but what Mr. Good just said is fine, and it's going to be just as difficult to continue to find new nonprofits and new contractors, but everybody's been working up to now. Now when the economy's starting to slow down, maybe you have an opening now where you can find some more individuals that will do the work. It's been a hard time. We've been on the road, not only the city of Tampa, the whole world, and now it's coming a little crumbling, little here and there, but I think we'll get over the hump. And East Tampa needs that work done now. The more we wait, the more costly it's going to be to do the repairs. You'll have much more problem with a house. If just a little leak today or something, it's just a little leak. Tomorrow you got half a roof and mold all over the house. And you have a problem there. So I agree with Councilman Goods.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Just want to be sure I heard that we are also going to move forward with more RFPs.
That's correct. If that's
Got
council's pleasure, let them vote on it.
Mr. Shelby.
Yes, so is the motion then to move the resolution for number 5?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and is that will that be a separate motion or just an agreement, tacit agreement between you and the staff? Okay.
Just an agreement with staff.
Councilman Goods, you are moving the resolution, agenda item number 5, file number BZP 22-77366.
I second.
Seconded by Councilman Miranda. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Mr. Chairman? Roll call on that.
Do a roll call vote, please. Everybody voted aye.
Yes, please.
And anyone opposed?
Now you can announce it then. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilman Goods.
You good with that, Ms. Travis? You and Ms. Henderson? You're not good?
No.
What you want? What you want?
So I need to make sure that we are under an expenditure deadline for SHIP funds. So we're under expenditure deadline for SHIP funds, and is your motion for us to move forward with this resolution? You're saying only for SHIP? Only for SHIP funds?
Tell us what you need us to do so we can we can get it done.
Listen, I'm trying to figure it out. Hold on.
That's what I like about it. She's straight to the point. Huh?
Okay. All right, so based on the based on what I'm hearing, so this money is SHIP, TIF, general fund money. It's all inclusive. You want to continue to move forward so that people can keep getting help. What we're under an expenditure deadline for is SHIP funds. And so I would like for you to move forward with this resolution with the SHIP funds only.
Expended first.
Expended first, because that's what we're under the
Okay.
deadline. We're going to issue an RFP, and it will be inclusive of all money. So if we get more nonprofits, so I need another
we
motion
rescind
to
the mo-
issue, to just say that you want to issue the RFP to be
Additional motion,
inclusive.
which Councilwoman Hurtak was trying to imply.
Okay.
No, no,
Go ahead, go ahead.
brand new.
So I don't need to rescind the last one, just go ahead and do an additional motion, correct?
Do you want to issue an RFP for the same programs of all funding?
So moved.
You gotta say it, though.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but I heard you asking for a resolution to use the SHIP funds first. Do we have to do a resolution for that?
The motion that you passed did not specify to use the SHIP funds first.
So-
I need you to do that.
Okay.
For the
So
resol-
after you do that one, I will make a motion to use the SHIP funds first.
For this agreement
then I'll-
with East Tampa.
Yes. Do you want me to do it now? I'm sorry.
Nope, you're fine. I just want to make sure that you
Can
get
we
it.
finish the other one
Yes.
first and then go back to this? I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Sorry.
We'll get it.
But we still have to rescind the original motion, correct? If you're gonna do, am I
Councilman
correct?
Guzzo, you want to rescind your original
Yes,
motion?
rescind
Thank you
I
very
second
much.
that to rescind the original motion, so there's clarity on the board, the clarity on the records, and everyone can read the public that we did the right thing. Thank you very
We
much.
have a motion made by Councilman Guzzo, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized before the vote, please?
Mr. Shelby.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we're trying to do this on the fly. Can I ask you for just a 3-minute break, please?
We're in recess
Thank
for
you.
3 minutes.
If you move forward with this contract, you can issue another RFP, and there's additional funding that we could use to fund that other RFP. We need contractors. We've had 3 to 4 meetings this year trying to get contractors to come on our list. We've only had 2 sign up. So they don't make a lot of money on this. So it's not like the most lucrative job, but it's a niche, right? And so we need to find contractors that want to work within this niche. So we'll continue to recruit, but I don't need you to do anything else for the motion. I'll put out another RFP for the $3 million. And my blood pressure is back down. So this is what happens when you're trying to make sausage on the fly, and you have experts, you have an expert team that is working hard to make sure that the citizens are continues to be served as we try to work through this. I just also want to say that a lot of the challenges and programs and the things that we're working through right now is not a problem with the program. The program works. It's a capacity issue. That's it.
Okay, Ms. Travis, if I'm hearing correctly, we do not need to rescind the prior motion.
That's correct.
Thank you, and that you are going to report back to us about the new RFP that's being sent out.
You'll see it when it's ready.
I thank you. We already did approve the motion.
Recognize, sir?
Councilman Goode.
And we're gonna look at the JOC program to kind of help out with that too.
Yeah,
correct?
the JOC program that Chief of Staff talked about, we're already working on that. And we'll report, and all of that, falls into our housing bucket. We can report back to you in a few months. You'll see it coming up more with the CRA too. It's in play.
And before you leave, I have a 30-second clip I want to show you. Folks that knew this was coming up when I was talking about kind of subject and talking about housing. So if CTTV can cue up that YouTube I saw, a good friend of mine sent me this morning. They can pull that up. Let's talk about what the city of Atlanta is doing.
Dickens is looking for help to get more families into homes and apartments they can afford.
Yeah, the mayor calls it development without displacement. And Fox 5's Morris Diggs reports on the progress.
So where will the new housing be? Some of it right downtown, several parcels spread around. The key point, land the city controls. It can then control the rent, making those payments more affordable. Priced out of a decent place to live in Atlanta, some citizens are so frustrated they come down to City Hall looking for help.
I'm not giving up. I'm going to come here until y'all can't hear rent control. That's what we need. Do the right thing.
She even had T-shirts to deliver to the council members. But local politicians cannot do rent control. They do have buckets of public dollars to help with the housing problem. COVID funding is one.
Dispersed tens of millions of dollars, frankly, to residents all across the city to help pay their rent if they could show that COVID had created some sort of hardship.
Even so, the mayor is looking for long-term remedies.
There's something I know about Atlantans. We know how to overcome problems.
Atlanta purchased a downtown tower owned by the state. It will be converted to housing units. A future resident will be able to walk to MARTA 5 Points. The Civic Center downtown, finally a solid plan here to build housing as part of a mixed-use development. And Mayor Dickens is getting churches involved. This is one that will construct housing on available land.
We have delivered 1,739 affordable housing units and have another 3,940 under construction. That's progress.
Councilman Matt Westmoreland says there is a racial component to ensuring Atlanta does not lock anyone out.
And we have a really stark racial divide as it relates to the median income of white families in Atlanta versus black families. I believe very deeply, and I know the mayor does, and many of my colleagues on council, that we need to continue building an Atlanta that can be home for everyone.
I'm Morris Diggs, Fox 5 News.
And the reason I
Thinking about going solar, but not sure
brought that
whether
in,
it's worth it for your home.
you know, to be reminded that we have certain areas in this city that we have to be inclusive. Also, the city owning its own property and can control rent. If we control the property, we control the rent. And we can control and buy these old abandoned churches that are all around this town. We then can put development and get other developers to help us with some of our issues with housing. But again, I know you're busy, I know you're working hard, but I had, in good conscience, I had to show that. But I thank you for your work, though.
I appreciate that very much. So I'm gonna go get a video made of what we're doing because I'm gonna get a video made of what we're doing and make sure that it's blasted all over the media because we have 5,500 towards our 10,000 goal of affordable, housing affordable that the mayor set that 10,000 goal and we've been tracking it. It's over 5,500. And as far as the property that we own, so Rome Yard is one that where we restrict
Navy.
I'm sorry?
The old Army Navy.
Army Navy. So anytime we, in 47th Street, and there's a couple others that's coming on, anytime we own the property, just as it was stated that you can control the rent, that's exactly what we're doing. And then now, what we're talking about, Councilman Goods, you and I have had conversations with developers as well, and looking at mixed-use development and what we can do to get affordable units mixed in with market rate units in our areas. And so we've had like several conversations in the last 3 weeks and some with developers. And so all of that. So now I'm going to go work on getting a news clip of what we're doing.
And that's the point I did want to make. We have to be able to show what we're doing. The public doesn't, all they see that we're not doing, in their mind. Just like I talked to the folks yesterday, tell the story. My thing is, I've said about these old churches, some of these old buildings, some of these old warehouse areas that we should be buying. And that's what I'm talking about, Mr. Chairman. Those kind of items that we should be, low-hanging fruit that we should be looking at and doing to get people in those, because now we can control the rent. We can have some developments that have some mixed level income, but my thing is sometimes that income is not there to meet what needs to be met. So that's why I did that, just to say, not just throw shade at anybody, but just to say, hey, just see, and look what some other people are doing too, and we may be doing some stuff, but they're doing something by making sure that these big development buildings that are sitting vacant, that they're putting people in them.
You'll see more of the what you're saying is tell the story, and I know from experience, sometimes we're head down just doing the work because there's so much work to do that we forget to tell the story. But we are telling the story. We worked with the communications teams, I think probably a few weeks ago. We had a meeting with the communications team to lay out a plan in telling the story on all these things that are happening when Rome Yards permits are due and groundbreaking and one of the media for the rebuild homes. I'm screwing up all the names, but we're telling the story, and we've been focused so much on implementing programs and getting the work out and getting the money out. We hear you loud and clear.
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, three things real fast. Number one, could you send us your current tally on the 5,500?
Yes.
Because I get a lot of questions about
Sure.
about what that is and what's being counted, and how. Second is second is that with some RFPs in the past, staff would say, well, we had an RFP and nobody else bid, or only 2 people bid, or something like that. And you and I have talked about this privately, but we need to make sure. What I've heard in the past is that developers and nonprofits say that the city was in conversations with somebody and they kind of did a deal, and then there was an RFP that was short, and other bidders didn't have time to put together a proper bid. I know you're not going to allow that to happen, but I just want to make sure, because we need multiple bidders on things to make sure that we get the best project, and to give every bidder a fair chance. The last thing is that I think the most important thing from the video was development without displacement. Yep. And Councilmember Goods has a lot to say about East Tampa. My thing is to say, we need to not look at it as a place for development. We need to look at it as a place that has a rich history and culture. And if we need to treat East Tampa the same way we would Hyde Park.
That's right.
And respect the history, culture, and architecture, and not just go through and tear everything down and rebuild. Thank you.
The program that you guys just approved reinforces that, try not to displace people that own occupied rehab. So we'll continuously look for ways to expand and improve upon that program, and so that there is continued investment in generational wealth that's being built in the community. So I appreciate your support.
Thank you, Ms. Travis. Mr. O'Hara. I believe you have some answers to some questions that council has posed to you.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Dennis Rajero, Chief Financial Officer. Good morning, council. Yes, council had asked us to circle back and provide a funding source for outside counsel that was discussed earlier this week, and we've done that. Credit where credit's due. Councilman Goods had an excellent suggestion, pulling from next year's election budget, the election of calendar year 2023. We've looked at that. We anticipate the costs associated with outside counsel will be well within our margin of error for next week's election funding. So we would recommend that that funding be used for that expense.
That's what I was going to ask. What is the pleasure of council? We have a maker of a motion. Do we have a second? A motion made by Councilman Good, seconded by Councilwoman Hurtak. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you, council.
Did you want to read that off? The election funds.
Okay. Mr. Chair.
Councilman Carlson.
Could I just say thank you to CFO and his staff for finding the money.
All right, at this time, we'll go to agenda item number 6, which is file number PS 22-78059, which will also be heard with agenda item 7. Things will be voted on separately, but however, there is one more agenda item, number 35, that needs to be discussed all at the same time. Without objection from council?
Ready, Chairman?
Yes, sir, please proceed. Absolutely.
Good morning, Chairman, council members, staff members, and the public. My name is Rich Mills. I'm a major with the Tampa Police Department's Special Support Division, and I'm here to discuss the Urban Area Security Initiative. That's under items 6 and 7. What I'm going to do is I have a visual for you to look at. I'm going to give a short presentation, give you the background of UASI, which is the Urban Area Security Initiative, and then go into specifics to the fiscal year 22 funding, and then answer any of your questions. So what you see here is some core capabilities on your left, and then the recipient agencies in Region 4, which consist of 8 different counties within Region 4, and obviously Hillsborough County and the Tampa Police Department is one of those agencies. So just take a look at that, and it'll kind of make sense while I'm talking and giving you an overview. The Department of Homeland Security's Urban Area Security Initiative grant program was created in 2002 after the terrorist attack events of 9/11 to enhance our nation's preparedness for high threat, high density urban areas by providing funds to build and sustain capabilities necessary to prevent, protect against, mitigate, respond to, and recover from threats or acts of terrorism. Each year, the Department of Homeland Security derives a relative risk score based on threat, vulnerability, and consequence for the 100 most populous metropolitan statistical areas as defined by the Office of Management and Budget. Congressional legislation requires funding those urban areas that fall within the top 85 percentile of relative risk score. In 2022, 36 urban areas were awarded and will share $615 million in totality. And the Tampa Bay Urban Area Security Initiative is one of those areas receiving $3.6 million. Tampa Bay is one of only 19 urban areas to receive continuous funding since the program's inception to fund projects with a nexus to terrorism for all communities within our 8-county urban area that include Citrus, Hardy, Hernando, Hillsborough, Pasco, Pinellas, Polk, and Sumter counties. And specific to the working group within the Urban Area Security Initiative, which includes communications, cybersecurity, emergency management, fire rescue, health and medical, law enforcement, Port Authority security, and transportation and transit. The City of Tampa Police Department houses the administrators to the Tampa Bay UASI grant program, which include initial funding of projects and purchasing for all partnering agencies within our 8-county urban area, as well as submitting reimbursement requests and meeting all federal grant requirements. Now, it's very imperative that we, as the administrators of this federal grant, adhere to the rules and regulations set forth by the federal government. This is a federal grant. In other words, it's federal money. We have to abide by their federal rules. All projects must have a direct nexus to preventing, protecting against, mitigating, responding to, and recovering from threats or acts of terrorism. All agencies must take part in a mandatory stakeholder preparedness review and a threat and hazard identification and risk assessment, also known as THIRA. Projects submitted by the working group must also meet at least one of the priorities that are set by the Urban Area Security Initiative Board, and they usually change on a yearly basis. Some say the same, some change based on the current threats throughout the world. This for 2022, fiscal year 2022, those threats included, or the priorities included, enhancing the protection of soft targets, crowded places, enhancing information and intelligence sharing and analysis, combating domestic violent extremism, enhancing cybersecurity, enhancing community preparedness and resilience to terrorism, and enhancing election security. So to go into fiscal year 2022 specifically, the Tampa Bay UASI continues to fund a subscription-based service that provides real-time, customizable alerting for high-risk events, keyword and credential monitoring, analyst services, secure collaboration, and indicators of compromise, digital visualization, and reporting for our urban area partners who want to participate. Tampa Bay UASI will also deploy an on-premises touchpoint hardware and software that will network traffic indicators to the Tampa Bay Regional Intelligence Center, also known as TBRIC. These projects will build capabilities within the cybersecurity core capability. Other projects funded include closing a gap in mutual aid communications within Hillsborough County and a mobile satellite communication system for Hernando County. A bomb robot for Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, which responds to all bomb calls for non-incorporated areas within our 8-county urban area, and a bomb suit for the Tampa Police Department's bomb squad, which serves all municipality bomb response needs also within our 8-county region, as well as a mass casualty trailer for Tampa Fire Rescue to provide the means to effectively triage and stabilize patients in the event of a terrorist attack. So, as you heard before, this is a federal grant. We do have deadlines. This was awarded in 2022, fiscal year 2022, and if we don't utilize those funds, again, we lose those funds. And it not only affects the Tampa Police Department, but it affects several different recipient agencies within that 8-county region, which is in front of you now, with those recipient agencies.
Any comments, any questions thus far?
Move the resolution for 6.
Second.
We have a motion to move the resolution for agenda item number 6, file number PS 2278059 by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Carlson. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposed?
Move number 7.
Second.
We have a motion for agenda item number 7.5 to move 7 to move the resolution for file number PS 2278099 by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Miranda or Councilwoman Hurtak. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed?
And item 35 as well, or
Separate.
That is separate.
1.5 million.
35. Would you like to speak to agenda item number 35, please?
Thank you, Council. Have an amazing day.
Hey, good afternoon. I believe you received a memorandum on item 35. If you have any questions for me, I'll answer those for you.
Second.
Let me ask, this is Councilman Veranda, God. Councilman Vieira is not here, and that is his public safety. If he is not back, Councilman Miranda, would you prefer to move this all in one for the public safety?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I am seeing that it's 12 o'clock now.
Come back at 1:30.
We will be in recess until 1:30.